Kathy's Pove. I could barely sit still. My foot bounced anxiously against the floor. My fingers fiddled with the edge of my sleeve as I waited. Then I started to hear footsteps. The Omega I had paid off, Lila, walked towards me. "Did anyone see you?" I asked quickly. She shook her head. "No, Miss Kathy. I took the long way, just like you told me." "Good," I said. "What did you find?" Lila looked around the place, then leaned in closer. Her voice trembled. "I didn't mean to snoop," she began. "I was just changing the sheets in Miss Violet's room when I knocked over her perfume tray. I was cleaning it up when I saw something tucked beneath the bottom drawer of her vanity." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small, clear vial, holding it between her fingers carefully like it was made of glass. I took it from her. My fingers trembled as I examined the liquid inside. My stomach dropped. "I've seen this before," I whispered. Lila nodded. "I checked. It's the same type of poison that was found in your mother's crime scene, Kathy. I asked about it. A guard compared it to what the detective found. It's identical." "No," I muttered, stepping back. "Are you sure?" "Positive," Lila said. "But that's not all. I did some digging. Beta Jason was not supposed to be on patrol the day he died. I checked the duty roster myself, and it was true, but Violet made sure he was. She faked the assignment. She sent him away." My heart dropped into my stomach. "That bitch," I whispered. "She orchestrated the entire thing." "It gets worse," Lila said softly. "The poison, it's from the Night Fang pack, the same pack the Alpha has been watching closely for months." I stumbled back. The whole thing was overwhelming for me. My ears were ringing. Violet had killed my father and tried to blame it on my Mon. She manipulated the patrols. She was tied to the Night Fangs. Tears stung my eyes, not from sadness, but fury. "I have to tell Kane," I said, voice shaking. Lila stood. "Be careful, Miss Kathy. She's dangerous." "I'm more dangerous," I hissed, already moving toward the palace. I didn't stop to think. I entered the palace and I stormed down the corridor toward Kane's office. I ignored the looks I got from passing pack members, the whispers behind cupped hands. I was too angry, too betrayed, and deep down too scared. I needed Kane to know. He had to do something. I knocked. "Come in," Kane's deep voice called out. I pushed open the door, expecting to see him behind his desk, but instead I found him hunched over his laptop, standing near the door. I could see the screen filled with images and files, documents that bore the Night Fang pack's insignia. My breath caught. "Kane?" I asked cautiously. He looked up, startled at first. Then his jaw clenched. He shut the laptop quickly, but it was too late. I'd seen it. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Why are you researching Night Fang?" He sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. "Kathy." "No. Don't Kathy me," I snapped, stepping into the room. "I just came from a meeting with someone. I just found out something." His eyes darkened. "What did you find?" I crossed my arms tightly, trying to steady my breathing. There was poison in Violet's room, the same kind found in my mother's crime scene, Marag, and it came from the Night Fang pack. I also discovered that my dad wasn't even on duty the day of the attack. Violet faked the schedule. She sent him away. Kane stood, his fists clenching at his sides. His face paled, then hardened. "I knew it," he muttered. "You... what?" "I didn't want to believe it," he said, pacing now. "I thought something was off. Violet kept asking questions she shouldn't. She always had an excuse to linger near the war room. I caught her once trying to listen in on a closed meeting. "Then why didn't you tell me?" I shouted, my voice breaking. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because I didn't have proof," he yelled back. "Not until now. I didn't even think too much about it." I turned away from him, swallowing the knot in my throat. My hands were shaking so hard I had to press them against my sides to keep them steady. "Kane," I said quietly, "she killed my dad." "I know," he whispered. "And I swear to you, she will pay for it. But I need time. I need you to trust me on this." My chest rose and fell rapidly as I fought to breathe past the emotions inside me. I hated this, hated the secrecy, the silence. I just wanted her to pay. I wanted to march into her room and rip off her head. "I should expose her," I said through clenched teeth. "I should drag her out in front of the entire pack and show them who she really is." Kane walked toward me then, stopping just inches from me. His voice dropped. "Kathy, please, just wait. Give me time. If we take her down now, we'll never uncover the rest. I need to know who she's working for. I promise you, I'll make her suffer." I looked up into his eyes. He looked as angry as I felt, but there was something else there too. Worry, guilt, regret. "I'm tired of waiting, Kane," I whispered. "I know," he replied, softer now, "but I'm begging you, one more time." I stared at him for a long moment, and then I nodded. Not because I trusted Violet, not even because I fully trusted Kane, but because I needed answers. And something told me this was just the beginning. Kathy's POV. I was folding laundry in the living room, half listening to a podcast playing softly from my phone, when Derek's voice echoed from the doorway. "Guess who got invited to a fancy dinner?" he said, walking in with that smug little grin he always wore when he knew he had something good to share. I looked up from the pile of clothes on my lap, raising a brow. "Let me guess, someone important?" "Close. The Crescent Moon Pack. They're hosting a banquet for the spring solstice. Political stuff. Alphas, Lunas, you know the drill," he said, walking over to sit beside me. He casually plucked a shirt from the pile and held it up. "Is this mine?" "No," I said, snatching it back. "It's mine, but nice try." He chuckled and leaned back on the couch. "I want you to come with me." My fingers froze. "Come with you? Like, as your date?" Derek turned to me with a smile and nodded. "Yeah, I mean, who else would I want on my arm when I'm surrounded by pompous alphas and lunas pretending to be royalty?" I laughed. "Well, when you put it like that, sure, I'll go." His eyes lit up. "Perfect." Then he stood and extended a hand toward me, bowing slightly. "Now, Milady, may I have this dance?" I laughed again. "We're in the living room." "So? Living rooms are meant for spontaneous dancing." I rolled my eyes, but took his hand anyway. He pulled me up, twirling me around dramatically. I almost tripped over the laundry pile, and we both burst into laughter. "Careful," I warned, grinning. "You'll kill us both before the banquet even happens." "Nonsense. I've got you," he said, pulling me closer. Our laughter faded into silence, and suddenly the air between us shifted. He held me by the waist, his hand warm against my back, and I was very aware of the space between us, barely there. His gaze dropped to my lips. "You know," he murmured, "I don't think I've said this out loud, but I fall for you more each day, Kath." I didn't know what to say, so I just kept quiet and stared into his eyes. And then, before I could think, his lips were on mine. It was warm. A kiss that tasted of slow promises. But as my eyes closed, another image broke through the haze. Kane. I saw his eyes in my mind. I felt his hands again, the way he used to hold me. I shook away the thoughts from my mind. I felt guilty. What kind of person am I? I kissed Derek back, but my heart didn't beat for him the way it beat for Kane. When Derek finally pulled back, his thumb brushed my cheek. "You okay?" I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. Yeah. The next day, we went shopping. Derek insisted on making it a day of it. "You're not picking a dress alone. Not when I'm the one dragging you to this fancy event," he'd said, flashing a grin. We walked into the first boutique, and I was instantly overwhelmed by racks of sequins, silk, chiffon, and price tags that made my eyes water. Derek, on the other hand, was having the time of his life. "What about this one?" he asked, holding up a deep red gown that looked like it belonged on a red carpet. I tilted my head. "Are we going to a banquet or the Oscars?" He smiled. "Touché." We tried 3 more boutiques. In each one, he had a habit of grabbing the flashiest, most ridiculous gowns just to make me laugh. And I did. At one point, we stopped for drinks at a small cafe. We sat by the window, sipping iced tea and people watching. He looked at me. "I hate shopping for dresses, but you make it fun." I raised a brow. Even when I almost cried over that lace corset dress, especially then, I've never seen someone look so betrayed by fabric. We both laughed again, and for a moment everything felt light. That is, until we walked into the final boutique. The gown caught my eye immediately, a deep emerald green dress, floor-length, with beautiful silver embroidery around the neckline. It was beautiful and elegant, just perfect. I reached for it at the same time as someone else. "Oh, come on," came a voice I knew all too well. "You're going to ruin it with your peasant fingers." I looked up. Violet, of course. She gave me a slow, catty smile. Her hands still clutched the same gown. "Didn't know they let strays into this part of town." I tightened my grip on the fabric. "Didn't know they let snakes into boutiques." Violet let out a short laugh. "Still so feisty. Tell me, are you Alpha Derek's pet project now, or are you just another placeholder until he finds someone who matters?" That one hit deep. Before I could respond, Derek stepped between us. Ladies, don't, I snapped, pushing him aside. My blood boiled in my veins. This is between me and her. Violet smirked. Touchy. Is it because Kane chose me? Chose you? I scoffed. Is that what he told you? Sweetheart, Kane doesn't choose. He tolerates. Her eyes narrowed. Still bitter, I see. No, I said, stepping forward. I just don't like bullies who think being loud makes them right. Then she did it. She stepped closer, leaned in, and whispered, You were never enough for him. You'll never be enough for anyone. My vision blurred with heat. I didn't even think. My hand moved on instinct. Smack! I slapped her. The sound echoed through the boutique like a gunshot. And then everything froze. Shocked gasps, the sudden silence. And then I heard it, his voice. The one that still made my heart catch, no matter how hard I tried to hate it. Kathy? I turned slowly. Kane. He was right there. Kathy's povee. The moment my eyes landed on him, everything inside me stilled. Kane? I forgot how to breathe. He stood at the boutique entrance like he was carved from perfection itself. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his sharp jaw was clenched, and those piercing blue eyes locked straight on me. My heart pounded painfully. I could feel my wolf stir deep inside me, desperate to reach him. My body responded before my mind could catch up. My chest tightened, my fingers tingled, and my knees were just a little too weak. I hated how he still had this hold on me, hated it and longed for it at the same time, and he hadn't even said a word yet. Violet, of course, moved faster than anyone. Like a well-trained actress, she hurried to him, her voice already trembling. Kane, she whimpered, rushing into his arms like she was some wounded damsel. She hit me, out of nowhere. I rolled my eyes so hard I almost gave myself a headache. Of course, this was textbook Violet. Twist the story. Make me look like the villain. Cry a few tears, bat your lashes, and play the victim. I should have expected this. I had expected this. But what I didn't expect was Kane's reaction. He didn't wrap his arms around her. He didn't coo or comfort. He didn't even look at her for more than a second. His eyes were still on me. They hadn't moved since he walked in. And I couldn't look away either. That bond between us, it crackled in the air like lightning about to strike. It was invisible, unspoken, but loud in its own way. The longer we stared, the louder it got. The world around us blurred until it was just me and him in this suffocating, beautiful silence. Violet sniffled dramatically, pressing her head to his chest. She slapped me for no reason, she said again. I waited for the moment Kane would nod. The moment he'd glare at me and ask, What the hell is wrong with you, just like he used to. But instead his voice was quiet, calm. Are you okay? He asked, not Violet, me. I blinked. What? He took a step toward me, his eyes dropping to my hand. Does it hurt? I stared at him, speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He wasn't asking about Violet, he was asking if my hand hurt. From slapping her. I flexed my fingers, still stunned. No, not really. Years ago, this same man would have torn into me without blinking. Back then, I was always the one at fault. Violet could have stabbed me, and Kane would have asked me what I did to provoke her. But now he was looking at me like I was the one who needed protection. Had he really changed? Violet was not having it. She stepped back, eyes wide in disbelief. You're defending her? Her? She slapped me, Kane. He didn't flinch, and I'm sure you said something to deserve it. But Violet gasped like he'd physically slapped her. You're taking her side? I'm not taking sides, Kane growled, but I saw you, Violet. I heard what you said. I bit my lip to keep from smiling, but a small, smug grin slipped out anyway. Violet turned to me with venom in her eyes. What are you smiling at? Nothing, I said sweetly, shrugging. It's just nice to watch karma show up on time for once. Her jaw dropped. Kane looked like he was fighting a smirk. The whole situation was wild. I should have felt triumphant, but deep down I was unsettled. Kane's concern, his focus on me, it tugged at something I didn't want to feel. It confused me. It made me wonder things I didn't want to wonder. Did he regret losing me? Did he finally see Violet for who she was? Was this change real or temporary? To push the thoughts away, I had an idea. A terrible, petty, impulsive idea. I moved closer to Derek, who had been watching everything quietly from the sidelines, his hands shoved in his pocket. I slipped my arm around his and leaned into him with exaggerated sweetness. Let's go, babe, I said with a sugary smile, resting my head on his shoulder. I'm suddenly not in the mood to shop anymore. Derek blinked, then smirked. Babe? I shot him a look. Play along. He chuckled and wrapped his arm around me. Sure thing, sweetheart. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Kane's entire body tense, his jaw clenched, his eyes narrowed. Bingo. Derek, ever the gentleman, and surprisingly good actor, nodded toward Kane. Kane. Kane's voice was tight. Derek, how's your shoulder? Better, Derek replied smoothly. My alpha wolf's a fast healer. Something flickered in Kane's expression. His eyes dropped to where Derek's arm was wrapped around me. I smiled brighter and leaned in closer, brushing a hand down Derek's chest. His eyes burned into mine like he was trying to read something on my soul. Violet looked between all of us, seething. This is ridiculous, she snapped. Let's go, Kane. He didn't move at first, but after a beat of silence, he nodded once. Yeah, let's go. Violet stormed out. Kane followed behind her without a single glance back. The moment the door closed behind him, I let out a shaky breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Derek looked down at me. Well, that was dramatic. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Too dramatic. He raised an eyebrow. You okay? I nodded slowly, eyes still fixed on the door. I don't know. Because even though I'd gotten a small victory today, I still felt like I'd lost something. And I wasn't sure why that hurt so much. Violet's povee. I sat on the edge of the couch in Luna Helen's lavish sitting room, dabbing at my eyes with a handkerchief I didn't even need, but it made the tears look softer, more tragic, more believable. I just don't understand what Kane sees in her, I whispered, my voice breaking at all the right places. She slapped me in front of everyone, like I'm nothing. Helen sat across from me with a steaming cup of herbal tea in her hand, looking at me with quiet sympathy. Her hair was perfectly pinned. Her gown was flawless as always. She looked every inch the calm, composed Luna, but I could see the tension in her eyes. She's made things difficult for all of us, Helen said carefully, especially now that Kane's been so protective of her. I sniffled. It's like he doesn't even see me anymore. I've always been by his side. I've always been the one he trusted, but now one slap, one glare, one flip of her stupid hair, and suddenly she's the one he wants to defend. Helen gave a soft sigh, setting down her tea. I'm not surprised. Kathy has changed. She seems to be stronger now. It draws attention, especially from men like Kane, but believe me, it won't last. I looked up at her sharply. Won't it? Because it feels like I'm losing him. You're not, she said firmly. You can't lose what's yours. And Kane was always yours. He just forgot for a moment. I laughed bitterly. A moment? He looked at me like I was the villain, like I was the one who needed to be stopped. Helen hesitated. She reached forward and gently touched my knee. Her voice was softer now. Violet, I wish I could do something. But Kane warned me. He told me not to meddle when it comes to Kathy. I've never seen him like this. The way he looks at her, there's something dangerous in it. So you won't help me? I asked, sitting up straighter. She gave me a regretful smile. Not openly. I have my own position to protect. I couldn't help but feel disappointed. I stood up, furious now. So I'm supposed to sit back and watch her take everything I've worked for? After everything I've done for this pack? For him? Helen didn't respond, and she didn't have to. I knew what I had to do. I called Alpha Dorian that night. If anyone could help me take back what was mine, it was him. He had power, influence, and more importantly, he had history with Kane. He agreed to meet me privately in the far wing of the guest manor, away from the eyes of other wolves. When I arrived, he was already there, standing by the window with his arms crossed. His eyes studied the darkness outside. You look tense, he said without turning around. I need your help, I replied, not wasting time. It's about Kane. At that, he turned to face me. What about him? He's slipping away from me, I said, and I need to know how to pull him back. Dorian gave a low, thoughtful hum. And this has to do with Kathy? I nodded. She's ruining everything. Kane won't even look at me the same way. It's like she's infected him. Dorian walked slowly to the table and poured himself a drink. He didn't offer me one. That girl is not ordinary. If you think you're going to outwit her by batting your lashes and playing the wounded heart, you've already lost. Then tell me what to do. I snapped. Tell me how to make him mine again. He took a sip, then looked at me. You want my advice? I wouldn't be here if I didn't. Then do something bold. Make him need you. Remind his body what it feels like to be with you. The mind will follow. It took a moment for his words to sink in, and when they did, a plan began to take shape in my mind. A terrible, beautiful, desperate plan. The next night, I waited in Kane's room. The wine was already poured. The sedative, Dorian's special blend, was stirred in, enough to fog his mind, dull his instincts, but not enough to knock him out cold. He walked in after training with his sweat still glistening on his skin and his shirt hanging from his hand. The sight of him still made my pulse race. I hated that. "Violet," he said with a raised brow, "what are you doing here?" "I wanted to surprise you," I said sweetly, walking over with the wine. "A little peace offering. Leave. I'm not in the mood for your games. Come on, Kane, just one drink. We're not enemies, are we?" He hesitated, but took the glass. We sat. We drank. I made small talk. He responded, but barely. His eyes stayed distant, his mouth tight. Minutes passed. Then he blinked slowly and his posture sagged. It was working. "Kane?" I said softly, brushing my hand along his jaw. "Are you okay?" He looked at me, dazed. "What did you do?" I climbed into his lap slowly, wrapping my arms around his neck. "Nothing bad. I just want you to remember what we had, that's all." He inhaled sharply, like his body was reacting without permission, but then suddenly, violently, he shoved me back. "Get off." I stumbled, nearly falling. "Kane, it's me." He stood up, grabbing the edge of the dresser. "What did you give me?" he growled. "You want me," I shouted. "You always have." "I did, Violet," he snarled, "but not anymore." I tried to reach for him again, but his body began to tremble. With a choked sound, Kane punched the wall beside him, hard enough to draw blood. His knuckles split, dripping red onto the floor. "Rather hurt myself than ever touch you like this," he hissed. And just like that, everything fell apart. I froze. He was bleeding, he was furious. But more than anything, he was disgusted. With me. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back. My rage burned even hotter. "You don't get to walk away from me," I whispered. "You don't get to pretend I never mattered." He glared at me. "You did matter. But I see you clearly now. And I wish I didn't." The words sliced through me. I ran out of his room, shaking with anger and humiliation. I didn't even know where I was going until I ended up in the courtyard. This wasn't my fault, no. I wasn't the villain. This was Kathy's fault. If it weren't for her, Kane wouldn't be confused. He wouldn't be torn. He would have chosen me. He already did. And I was going to make sure that by the time I was done, he'd never look at Kathy the same way again. Even if I had to burn everything down to do it. Kane's POV. I couldn't breathe that night. The walls of my room felt too close. The silence was too loud, suffocating. My chest was tight and my mind was a whirlwind of mistakes I couldn't take back. Every breath I took felt like it was scraping against glass. So I did the only thing I knew, grabbed my jacket, slammed the door behind me, and headed to a far bar that wasn't already sick of seeing my face. The place reeked of old beer and cigarette smoke. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. Here I wasn't an alpha. I was just like anybody else. I slid into a stool at the far end, away from the music, away from people. A forgotten song played from a dusty jukebox in the corner. I nodded to the bartender, and he poured me something strong without asking. I guessed he knew me by now, or maybe I just looked like someone who wanted to disappear. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Kathy, laughing, smiling, wrapped around Derek like he was her whole world now. The image of them at the mall hit me like a fist to the gut. She had been leaning into his shoulder. Her eyes sparkled with that carefree joy I hadn't seen in so long. She looked happy. The kind of happy I used to dream of giving her. The kind I thought only I could give her. And I let it slip right through my fingers like sand I was too stubborn to hold on to. My wolf stirred restlessly inside me. He was furious, but the worst part was the fact that his anger was directed at me. "This is your fault," he snarled. "Don't start," I muttered under my breath, lifting the glass to my lips. "You pushed her away, Kane, again and again. You treated her like she didn't matter, like she was just another passing thing." I slammed the glass down harder than I meant to. A few heads turned. I didn't care. I thought I was doing the right thing, I snapped back in my mind. "I didn't know it would end like this." "No," he growled. "You were trying to protect yourself. You were too much of a coward to let her in. You let your fear win. And now look what you've done. You let her go. You let her walk right into Derek's arms. You left her that day of the fire. You saved Violet first. If I was Kathy, I'd never come back to you either. I gritted my teeth. The pain spread in my chest like fire. The burn of the whiskey did nothing to silence the ache. I thought I could save both of them, okay? Kathy and Violet, that night in the fire. And you chose Violet, my wolf interrupted coldly. You ran into the flames and saved Violet first. Kathy probably watched you do it. She watched you choose someone else. I thought I had time. I didn't know the place would collapse. You didn't choose her. Not then. Not ever. You don't deserve her. The words sliced through me deeper than anything else ever had. Because he was right. He was absolutely right. I stared down at my reflection in the half-empty glass. My eyes were bloodshot and my face was hollow. I didn't even recognize the man looking back at me. He looked broken, like he'd lost his soul somewhere between regret and pride. A woman slid onto the stool beside me. Her perfume was strong. It smelled like cheap roses. Her dress clung to her like it had something to prove. Her smile was too polished. "Rough night?" she asked. "You could say that," I grunted. "Maybe I can help you forget it," she said, sliding closer. For a price, I let out a bitter laugh. She leaned in, pressing her hand to my chest. Her nails were long, red, sharp. "You're handsome," she purred. "Bet you got girls chasing you." "Only one ever mattered," I muttered. She tilted her head. "Let me guess. Broke your heart?" "No," I said. "I broke hers." Her touch lingered on my arm. She caressed me. The touch was probably meant to entice me. But I felt nothing. No spark, no warmth. Just emptiness. Cold, desolate emptiness. Rather, her touch irritated me. I looked at her again, and for a split second, I saw Kathy's face, her real smile. The light in her eyes when she used to look at me like I was her safe place. That illusion gutted me. Then it was gone. Just a stranger again. The woman wasn't Kathy. No one ever would be. I pushed back my stool and stood. "Thanks," I said. "But I can't." "Suit yourself," she shrugged, already turning to the next guy. I stumbled out of the bar. The cold air hit my face immediately. It didn't sober me. Nothing could. My legs felt heavy. My heart felt heavier. My thoughts were filled with guilt and longing. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. My wolf was quiet now, not gone, just subdued. He was a low rumble of pain under my skin. We both felt it. The weight of everything I'd lost, the weight of her absence. I walked blindly, crossing the street without looking. My mind wasn't here. It was replaying every moment I should have held her, every time I should have told her she mattered, every kiss I didn't give, every apology I owed. Kathy's laugh, Kathy's tears, the moment she looked at Derek like he was her home now. And then I saw headlights, bright, blinding, barreling toward me. A horn blared. I turned, too late. The last thing I saw was the light, Kathy's pauvre. The sun came in through the kitchen window. The smell of fried onions and rosemary filled the house. It felt warm and comforting, just like home was supposed to be. I stood at the sink, elbow deep in soapy water, scrubbing the remnants of breakfast from the plates. Behind me, I could hear the soft giggles of Noah and Arya in the living room as they played with Bunny, their favorite stuffed animal. It was one of the presents Cain got for them on their birthday. They seemed to love it more than their other toys because it was from him. "Noah, don't play with Bunny like that," Arya scolded with her tiny hands on her hips, just like her grandmother. "But he wants to play," Noah argued, grinning like a rascal. Bunny flew through the air again, barely missing the potted plant by the window. "Kids," I called over my shoulder, half laughing, half warning. "If you break that plant, you're both cleaning it up." "Yes, Mama," they said together. But their mischievous giggles told me they had no intention of slowing down. "Let them be kids, Mija," my mother said from behind the stove, flipping something in the pan. Her hair was tied in a bun, and her apron was slightly stained from the sauce she was preparing. "They won't stay little forever." "I know, Mama," I sighed, rinsing a cup and placing it on the drying rack. I feel like I'm always cleaning up after someone." "That's motherhood," she said with a smile. "You clean, they mess, you cook, they complain, but one day they'll thank you, or at least give you grandbabies to do it all over again." I laughed softly. "God, don't even joke, they're barely 5. My mother chuckled, stirring the pot. "And you? Are you okay, Kathy?" I paused, my hand hovering over the last plate. "I'm fine." She didn't believe me. I could tell by the way she turned down the heat and looked at me. "Fine isn't an emotion, Hija. It's a cover." she said. I gave a forced smile. There's nothing to talk about. Could this be about Kane? The name made something inside me twist. I turned away quickly to hide emotion in my eyes. No, I muttered. My mom wiped her hands on her apron and walked over, placing a warm hand on my shoulder. You may not be his Luna anymore, but your heart doesn't seem to know that yet. Before I could answer, my phone rang. It unknown number. I frowned and wiped my hands on a towel. Hello? Kathy? A voice asked, slightly breathless. The voice was a male's voice. It was unfamiliar to me. Yes, I said. It's Dylan, Kane's beta, the new one. My heart skipped a beat. Dylan? Why was he calling me? I'm sorry to call you like this, but Kane's been in an accident, a bad one. He's in the hospital, he said. I froze. I couldn't breathe. The world around me slowed. What? What do you mean? I whispered. I don't know what really happened. I saw him on the road. He's stable, but unconscious. I thought you should know. He keeps calling your name. Thank you, I said. He's in the PAC hospital, just in case you want to come by. With that, I hung up. Mama? Noah tugged at my shirt. Wiring, it was only then that I realized tears were falling down my cheeks. Is Daddy okay? Arya's voice joined her brother's. I hear he's in the hospital. Can we go see him? I swallowed hard, forcing the lump in my throat down. Yes, I said. You can go. Yay, they cheered in unison. But, I continued, trying to steady my voice, I'm not going with you. Their smiles faded instantly. Why not? Arya asked, her lower lip trembling. Don't you want to see Daddy? Noah looked between me and his sister, his eyes narrowing in confusion. Is it 'cause you don't love Daddy anymore? I flinched. No, that's not it. Then why? Noah folded his arms, frowning. You always say family is important. He is family, Arya cried. He's Daddy. I know, I whispered, crouching down to their level. But sometimes adults have to make hard choices. That's a stupid choice, Arya snapped. I watched as the tears filled her eyes. We all miss him, even you. You're lying if you say you don't miss Daddy, Noah added. Even Bunny misses him. They placed the stuffed lion in my hands like it was proof. My heart ached. I forced a small smile and kissed their cheeks. I'll have someone come pick you both up. Be good. Be strong, okay? He needs your love more than anything right now. They stormed off, angry and confused, leaving Bunny behind on the kitchen counter. I picked the stuffed lion up, hugging it to my chest. I couldn't explain it. I didn't even understand it myself. The moment I heard Kane was hurt, my heart cracked open. I wanted to run to him, to sit by his bed and hold his hand, but my pride, my pain, they held me back. I set the table quietly while my mom placed the food into serving dishes. She didn't ask more questions, but her eyes watched me carefully. As I folded the napkins, Kane's face haunted my thoughts, his smile, the way I felt about him. My fingers trembled slightly. Then came the voice I dreaded, my wolf. Why are we not with him, she asked. Because we can't just show up like nothing happened. I snapped back at her. He's our mate. He let me go. He chose duty. He chose the pack. And yet you still love him. I paused. My heart clenched. Love doesn't fix everything, I whispered to her. But it's enough to care when he's hurt. I sat down slowly, pressing my forehead to the table. I do care. Damn it, I care too much. That's the problem, I said. Then go to him. I can't. You mean you won't? Silence stretched between us. I could feel my wolf pacing in my mind. She was angry and anxious. He's lying in a hospital bed, Kathy, bleeding, weak, unconscious. He could have died, and you're here setting the table, she said. You think I don't know that? I shouted in my head, my hands gripping the edge of the table. I'm scared, okay? I'm scared to see him like that. I'm scared that if I do, I won't be able to leave again. I snapped. My wolf was quiet for a moment. Then don't leave, she muttered. I closed my eyes tightly. My body was shaking with the weight of everything I was trying to suppress. I don't know if I can forgive him, but can you live with yourself if you don't see him one last time? That thought hit me like a slap. The possibility that this could be the end, that Kane might not make it. The idea ripped through me, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. I clutched Bunny to my chest again, trembling. What do I do now? Kathy's povey. The day dragged like there was a weight behind my ribcage. After the kids left the kitchen, all angry and confused, I stayed behind, pretending the ache in my chest was something I could clean away. I swept. I wiped counters. I adjusted the salt and pepper shakers for no reason. but nothing worked. The feelings affected me like an ache in my bones. I was still wiping the same clean plate when I heard the front door creak open. "Hey," Derek's familiar voice said softly as he walked in. I turned to see him standing in the doorway. I smiled at the sight of him. He walked over to me, leaned in, and pressed a gentle kiss to my cheek. "You okay?" he asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just a long morning." He glanced around. "Where are the kids?" "In their room. Mad at me," I admitted with a small, tired smile. "I told them they could go see Kane at the hospital, but I'm not going." His brows knit instantly. "Wait, what? Hospital?" I nodded again, but more slowly this time. I pressed a dish towel to my palm as if that would calm my shaking hands. "I got a call earlier, from Dylan, Kane's new beta. He said Kane was hurt in an accident and that he's in the hospital, stable but unconscious." Derek's eyes widened. "Damn, is he okay?" "I don't know, I didn't ask for details." My voice wavered before I added, "I couldn't." Derek tilted his head, confused. "And you don't want to go see him? Why not?" I turned away, giving him my back. "I just can't. I told the kids they could go, and I was hoping maybe you could take them." There was a pause, then his voice softened. "You sure, Kath? I mean, I can, yeah, of course. But are you okay?" I took a deep breath. "It's better this way." He stepped closer. "You're lying?" "I'm fine, really." He let out a slow sigh, then gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "All right, then, I'll take them, whatever you need." I pulled him into a tight hug. "Thank you," I whispered into his shirt. He held me just long enough. "I'll bring them back before dinner." We all sat at the table for lunch after he agreed to take them. The food was ready, but it felt tasteless. The kids were still a little sulky, poking at their rice with their spoons. "Are you really not coming with us, Mama?" Noah asked quietly. I forced a smile. "No, baby, but I promise. I'll make it up to you." Arya frowned. "How?" "I'll let you pick dessert tonight," I said, trying to sound playful. Her lips twitched, but she stayed quiet. We ate in silence after that. I could feel Derek's gaze on me from time to time, and I knew he was worried. I wanted to pretend everything was fine, but I couldn't lie to myself anymore, because the truth was simple. I was scared. Not of Kane. Not of seeing blood or machines or him hurt. I was scared of what seeing him would do to me, scared that one look at him lying there, fragile and broken, would shatter every wall I'd worked so hard to build. That I'd fall apart again. That I'd fall for him again. And I wasn't ready for that. "You're a coward," my wolf snapped in my head. "Shut up," I mumbled under my breath. "He's your mate, he's hurt, and you're here fussing over dessert choices?" "I can't help how I feel." "You mean how you still feel?" I gritted my teeth. I said, "Shut up. You're lying to them. But more than that, you're lying to yourself. What are you so afraid of, that you'll love him again?" "No," I whispered, placing a fork down. "I already do." There it was. The truth. I loved Kane, even after everything. After the heartbreak, the silence, the choices. I loved him, and I hated how helpless that made me feel. When Derek and the kids finally left, the silence that filled the house was deafening. I tried reading, cleaning. I even tried napping. But nothing helped. I kept imagining what state he must be in. What if the kids got scared? What if Kane didn't wake up? What if those were my last words to him all those weeks ago? And I never even said goodbye. I was pacing the living room when the front door burst open again. Arya and Noah came running in, flushed and breathless. "Mama," Arya shouted, holding up a drawing she made at the hospital. It was a picture of Kane in bed, looking like a bandaged potato. "Daddy looks really bad." "He couldn't even talk," Noah added dramatically. "He had tubes everywhere. And wires." Arya's eyes were huge. "He looked like a robot." I blinked. "Wait, really?" "No," Derek said from behind them with a chuckle. "They're exaggerating. He's unconscious but stable, hooked to an IV, not a space station." The kids crossed their arms, disappointed. "But he looked so pale," Arya insisted, "and lonely." "He squeezed my hand?" Noah added, looking up at me with big, hopeful eyes. Even though he was sleeping, I swear he did. Something inside me cracked. I sank onto the couch, staring at the floor. "Did he ask for me?" I asked quietly. Derek stepped forward. "He's unconscious, Kathy, but Dylan said he kept calling your name before he passed out." Tears burned the back of my eyes. The kids climbed into my lap, snuggling against me. "You should go see him, Mama," Arya whispered. "Yeah," Noah echoed. "Please, he needs you." I looked into their eyes. My heart beat painfully in my chest. I pressed a kiss to both their heads. "Okay," I whispered. They blinked up at me. "I'll go see him." They broke into wide grins, hugging me tighter. I wasn't sure what I was walking into, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay away anymore. Kathy's Popov? The next morning, the house was quiet except for the soft giggles and chatter of Noah and Arya playing with building blocks on the living room rug. I moved mechanically, washing dishes and folding laundry, trying my best to stay busy, stay distracted. But it wasn't working. My wolf was restless inside me. She kept pacing, whining, clawing at the edges of my mind. I could feel her pull towards him, towards Cain. I tried to ignore her. I tried to bury the ache rising in my chest, but it was impossible. Every clang of a plate, every toy scattered across the floor, every little task I did, I saw his face, his smile. His smile. I couldn't deny it anymore. I missed him. I needed to see him. I wanted to. "Mommy," Arya tugged on the edge of my shirt. Her big brown eyes looked up at me, hopefully. "Can we go see Daddy today? Please?" "Yeah," Noah added, standing beside her. "We miss him." I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. I knelt to their level and pulled them both into a hug. Their little bodies felt so warm and trusting against me. "I know you miss him," I said softly, brushing back Arya's curls. "Daddy misses you too, but he's still getting better, okay?" I didn't let my emotions show. Instead, I forced a small smile. "You'll see him soon, baby." But deep down, I knew what was coming. Hours passed. The sun began to set. I had just tucked the kids in. Outside the door, I could hear the gentle rise and fall of their breathing. But my own chest, it was tight, empty. I couldn't take it anymore. My heart pounded as I grabbed my coat and quietly slipped out the front door. I didn't take the car. I needed the walk. I needed the silence. I needed the time to prepare myself for what I was about to do. I was going to see him. The hospital lights were harsh. The hallways smelled of antiseptic as usual. My fingers trembled as I reached for the handle to his room. I hesitated. My wolf pressed forward eagerly, urging me to open it. "Just one look," I promised myself, "just to make sure he's okay." When I opened the door and stepped inside, my breath hitched. There he was. Cain. God, he looked broken. He was bruised. His shoulder was bandaged. There were tubes, machines, and the steady beep of a heart monitor. But none of that prepared me for the way his body seemed smaller, quieter. Like the mighty Alpha I once knew had been dimmed somehow, and yet he was still him. Still Cain. I moved quietly until I reached his bedside. I sat down slowly and reached for his hand. The moment my fingers touched his, emotions crashed through me. Pain. I could feel his pain through our mate bond. Tears filled my eyes. Oh God, Cain. Our bond was still there. He was hurting, and through it I felt every shred of it. His hand twitched. Kathy. His voice was weak, hoarse, but hearing him say my name, like that, shattered me. "I'm here," I whispered, squeezing his hand gently. "Don't try to talk. You need to rest." His lips curved up into a faint smile. "Knew you'd come." "I shouldn't have," I admitted, my voice cracking, "but I had to see you." He blinked up at me slowly. "Thanks for letting the kids come by." I gave a faint nod. "They missed you." "I missed them too." His eyes softened. "And you?" I looked away, blinking quickly. "You should rest." He chuckled softly, then winced. "Still stubborn, huh?" "You're one to talk." His hand curled around mine weakly, and I didn't pull away. I didn't have the strength to. Not right now. We sat in silence for a moment before he whispered, "You look beautiful." I snorted. "You're delusional. You're in pain." He smiled again. "I've been in pain since the day you walked away. That did it." Tears filled my eyes again, and I fought to hold them back. "Don't," I said. "Don't say that." "Why not?" His voice was still soft. "It's true." I tried to be strong, tried to keep my guard up, but sitting here next to him, it was like all the years that had passed between us melted away. And the bond, our bond, was still there. It was still strong. For some reason, it felt unbreakable. The bond kept whispering that we were still his and mine. "Do you ever think about it?" he asked. "Back then? How it used to be before I screwed things up?" "All the time," I whispered before I could stop myself. He exhaled shakily. "I never stopped loving you, Kathy." I looked down at our hands. His thumb brushed slowly against mine. "Why?" I asked. "After everything? Why would you still love me?" "Because you're my mate," he said. "Because you gave me the two best things in my life, Noah and Arya. Because no matter what happened, no one ever came close to you." My heart pounded. I hated how his words warmed me, how they pulled at the part of me I'd been trying to bury for so long. I tried to move on. I admitted, tried to forget you. Did it work? I looked up at him and smiled sadly. No. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. I'm sorry for everything, Kathy, for the pain, for making you walk away. I'm sorry too, I whispered. I didn't want to leave. I just didn't know how to stay. His eyes searched mine. Could you maybe try again? Not now. Not tonight. But someday? I didn't answer, because the truth was I wanted to say yes. I wanted to crawl into his arms and let him hold me like he used to. I wanted to believe in us again. But there was too much pain. Too much history. And I was scared. Still, I didn't pull away. I stayed. We talked for what felt like hours. About the kids, about the past, about stupid little memories we both cherished but never admitted to missing. He made me laugh, then winced again, and I scolded him for pushing himself. He apologized with a crooked smile and a wink that made my stomach flutter. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Like me again. Not just the mother, not just the woman who survived heartbreak, but Kathy. His Kathy. And that scared me more than anything. Suddenly I heard footsteps in the hall. I heard the sound of voices. I started to panic. I wasn't ready for anyone to see us together yet. I have to go, I whispered urgently, standing up. Wait, Kathy. But I was already halfway to the door. I turned to glance at him one last time. He looked so lost. Thank you, he whispered. For coming. Rest, Kane. Then I slipped out the door just as it opened behind me. I ducked into the next hallway, pressing my back against the wall, trying to catch my breath. My heart kept pounding in my chest. What was I doing? Why did it feel like I was falling for him all over again? Tears burned my eyes as I walked quickly down the corridor and out into the night air. And still, deep in my chest, my wolf howled his name. Kane, Kathy's povee. The night air was cold. My heart pounded in my chest as I moved silently through the outskirts of the neutral zone. I kept to the shadows. My cloak was pulled tightly around me. I'd followed Violet's scent trail from the edge of our territory all the way here, a bar just past the border. Lila's message had been short and to the point. She snuck out again, heading toward the neutral zone. Thought you'd want to know. I paid her well to watch Violet, and she never failed to deliver. But even with the tip-off, I hadn't expected to find this. From my position behind a parked truck, I watched as Violet sat across from a tall man in a leather jacket. His presence was commanding, dangerous, and unmistakable. He was Alpha Dorian of the Nightfang pack. His aura reeked of dominance, even from this distance. He leaned in close to Violet, smirking. His hand brushed hers on the table. Violet giggled, tilting her head like she didn't have a care in the world. My stomach turned. What the hell was she doing here with him? From their body language, it seemed like they were very comfortable with each other. I leaned forward, trying to catch what they were saying, just as Dorian's head snapped in my direction. Shit. I ducked low behind the truck, holding my breath. His eyes had flickered toward me like he knew. My heart pounded loudly in my ears. I was just about to retreat when a hand clamped down on my shoulder. I gasped and spun around, ready to strike. I was shocked to see who it was. Kane? I whispered in shock. He raised both hands in surrender. It's just me. I stared at him, stunned. The last time I saw him, he was hooked up to machines in the infirmary, barely conscious. That was just a few hours ago. What was he doing here? What? I shrieked. You're supposed to be in the hospital. What are you doing here? Are you crazy? I hissed, pushing him back a step. You were injured. You could still be... I'm fine, he interrupted calmly. My wolf heals fast, you know that? I'm an alpha, or have you forgotten? That doesn't mean you should be out here, following me around like some kind of stalker. I snapped. I had a feeling you were up to something, and clearly, I was right. You followed me? My voice rose slightly in disbelief. Yes, he said bluntly and with no trace of shame. I was worried. Worried. I laughed under my breath, but it wasn't funny. You left the hospital against medical orders because you were worried? You should be resting, not lurking behind trees and playing spy. He stepped closer, looking at me intensely. And you should be more careful. You came here alone, Kathy. What if Violet wasn't the only one out here? What if Dorian's men spotted you? I glared at him, refusing to be cowed. I've handled worse on my own. He looked down at me, jaw tightening. "You're not invincible. And you're not my keeper," I shot back. We stared at each other in tense silence. The heat between us was too much for me to bear. I turned away from him, trying to regain focus. "We can't be seen. We're too close to the entrance. Come on." Kane didn't argue. We moved deeper into the shadows. There was a forest, so we entered inside and stayed at an angle where we could still keep an eye on Violet and Dorian. A pair of Dorian's guards walked by, talking about something. We held our breath until they were gone. It was only then I realized how close Kane was behind me. Too close. My back was pressed to his chest, and I could feel the rise and fall of his breathing. His hands had automatically landed on my waist when we crouched down. Now they stayed there. His touch sent heat through me. "Move back a little," I whispered over my shoulder, trying to ignore how solid he felt behind me. "I can't," he said. Not without drawing attention. Just stay still. Easy for him to say. I swallowed hard. I was too much aware of everything. The warmth of him, the way his breath brushed the side of my neck, and the way he was slowly getting hard against me. I froze. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. "I'm not trying to," he said in a strained whisper. "Trust me. I'm not doing this on purpose." My cheeks burned, but I didn't move. I didn't know if I wanted to. When the guards were long gone, I pulled away quickly, brushing my clothes off as I stood. I need to go. I saw enough. But Kane's hand shot out, wrapping gently around my wrist. "Wait." I turned to glare at him, but the look in his eyes made my breath hitch. "Kane, don't," I whispered. "Not now." "I need to," he murmured, stepping closer. "Do you have any idea what it did to me? Watching you leave, knowing you were heading into danger and I couldn't follow. Lying in that damn hospital bed, feeling like I might never—" He broke off, eyes searching mine. "You drive me insane, Kathy." I didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was him. But the next thing I knew, his lips were on mine urgently. My body melted against his as he pulled me in. One of my hands cradled the back of my head while the other gripped my waist like he was afraid I'd disappear. I fisted his shirt, pulling him even closer. His kiss was rough, desperate, and I kissed him back just as fiercely. All the tension between us, all the arguing and denial and confusion, it exploded in that moment like fire meeting gasoline. I could deny it all I wanted, but me and Kane? It seemed like we were inevitable. Kathy's Pove. The morning sun came in through the curtains. I stood at the kitchen sink. The sponge in my hand soaked up water as I absently scrubbed at a plate that was already clean. I wasn't really cleaning. I was thinking. My thoughts were a tangled mess. Each one led back to him. Kane. The passionate sex we had last night haunted me in the most bittersweet way. I closed my eyes briefly and could still feel his hands on my skin, the way his voice lowered when he whispered my name like it meant everything. There was no denying it anymore. I still loved him. I never stopped. I tried for so long to move on, to convince myself that Derek was what I needed. He had everything I could ever wish for. Stability. Kindness. He was a good man. He was someone who accepted me and the kids without question. Derek was all those things. He was wonderful. I looked up through the open archway into the living room, where Derek was lying on the carpet, laughing as Arya climbed on his back, and Noah pretended to be a knight saving her from a dragon. My heart ached. They loved him, and he loved them. I could see it in the way his eyes lit up when they giggled, in the way he let them mess up his hair and tackle him like they were his own. Okay, I surrender." Derek laughed, letting Noah pin his arms down dramatically. "Noah, you saved me." Arya squealed with delight. "No problem, Princess Arya," Noah said proudly, standing tall with his plastic sword. I forced a smile and turned back to the sink, continuing to wash dishes while trying not to let the guilt eat me alive. I should have felt happy. This was a picture-perfect scene. But inside, I felt like a fraud, like I was standing in someone else's life. I felt guilty, like I betrayed Derek by having sex with Kane. And in a way, I did. I was a horrible person. Derek deserved better. "Mommy?" Arya's voice broke through my thoughts. I turned to see both kids walking into the kitchen. Their cheeks were flushed from playing. "Yes, baby?" Arya tugged at the hem of my shirt. Her little eyes were wide and full of sadness. "I miss Daddy." Noah stood beside her, nodding. "When can we go see Daddy again?" My heart clenched. I crouched down so I was eye level with them, wiping my damp hands on a dish towel. "We'll see him soon, okay?" I said gently, brushing a strand of hair behind Arya's ear. "But I miss him now," Arya pouted, her lower lip trembling. Noah's voice was smaller than usual. "I miss his stories, Uncle Derek's fun and all, but he's not Daddy." I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. "I know, sweetheart, but you're having fun with Uncle Derek, right?" They nodded. "Yeah," Noah said. "He plays with us and he makes good pancakes." "Yummy pancakes," Arya added. I smiled softly, relieved for a moment, but then Arya looked up at me with big eyes and said, "I wish we could all be a family. You, me, Noah, and Daddy, like my friends." "Yeah," Noah agreed. "Our friends have families. You and Daddy would be great together." I blinked, stunned. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I wasn't expecting that, not from them, not so clearly. "We'll talk about that later, okay?" I finally managed to say. I pulled them both into a tight hug. "For now, why don't you two go build a fort with Uncle Derek? I'll join you in a bit." They nodded and ran off. As their giggles faded down the hallway, I leaned against the counter. I had made such an effort to bury my feelings, to give Derek a real chance, and he'd been nothing but good to me. But no matter how hard I tried, my heart had never fully let go of Kane. The way the kids talked, like they knew what was missing, broke something inside me. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. That evening, I sat on the couch, waiting for the right moment. My hands were cold, my pulse was unsteady. Derek came in from the hallway after getting the kids settled and smiled at me. His smile was so soft, so hopeful. "Hey," he said, "you okay? You've been quiet all day." I stood, trying to hold it together. "Derek, can we talk?" The smile faded from his face. "Sure. Yeah. We moved to the dining room. I could barely meet his eyes, but when I did, I saw it. He already knew something was wrong. "I need to be honest with you," I began, my voice shaking. "About everything." He took a breath. "This is about Kane, isn't it?" I nodded slowly. "Last night, I went to see him. We talked. It got complicated. And I know it was wrong, Derek. I wasn't fair to you. I never meant to hurt you." He looked down at the table. I could feel the anger radiating off him, but I could tell it wasn't directed at me. I watched as his fingers curled into a loose fist. "You slept with him?" Tears stung the corners of my eyes. "Yes." He nodded slowly, breathing hard through his nose. "I see. I didn't plan it. It just happened and, Derek, I'm sorry. I've been trying so hard to move on, but—" I paused, forcing the words out. "I still love him." Silence fell again. Derek finally looked at me. I could tell. I guess I just hoped. Maybe with time, you'd start loving me instead. My throat closed. "I do care about you. You're a good man. You've been incredible to me and the kids, but if I stay with you like this, it's not fair to you. Or to me, or them." He walked a few paces away, running a hand down his face. "God, Kathy, I didn't want to believe it, but I guess I always felt like I was just standing in his shadow." "I never meant to put you in that position," I said, stepping closer. "You deserve someone who's all in, not someone still clinging to the past." He turned back to me. "So what happens now?" I wiped at a tear. "I think we need to end this." He didn't respond for a long time. Then finally, with a heavy sigh, he said, "Okay." I exhaled shakily. "I'm so sorry." He shook his head. "Don't be. I'd rather have the truth than live in a lie. Just one last thing. Anything." He looked up at me. "Will you still come with me to the banquet with me?" "I don't want to go alone. I already told everyone I had a date. We can go as just friends." I hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I'll come." "Thank you," he whispered, Kathy's Pove. The red dress fit like a second skin. As I stood in front of the mirror, I slowly turned from side to side, smoothing the fabric down over my hips. The gown was elegant. It was deep red like a drop of wine, with a slit that ran high up one thigh and a neckline that revealed just enough. It was bold, far bolder than anything I'd usually wear. But Derek said he had it custom made for me. And the way he looked at me when he saw me in it, like I was a goddess he'd just summoned, made it worth it. I touched the jewelry he gave me. He gave me diamond earrings that shimmered and a matching necklace that sat right at my collarbone. I had applied just a hint of makeup, enough to define my eyes and give my lips a soft red tint to match the dress. Nothing heavy. I wanted to look like myself, just better. When Derek came to escort me downstairs, his breath caught. "Kathy," he said, stepping closer, "you're radiant. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anyone look as beautiful as you do right now." I blushed. "You're just saying that because you bought the dress." He grinned and took my hand, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "No, I bought the dress because I knew it would look like this on you." His tone was soft. There was something in his eyes, too. Something warm and sincere that made my chest ache just a little. For a moment, I let myself wonder what it would be like, really like, to love him back. Because he was good to me. So good. Kind, protective, generous, always thinking of me first. I knew my heart would be safe with Derek, that he would never break it, never abandon me, or leave me feeling like I was never enough. He was the kind of man you built a life with, the kind of man you grew old with. But he wasn't Kane. And no matter how hard I tried to push those feelings away, they stayed. You know what they say. The heart wants what it wants. I smiled at Derek, letting him lead me outside. Tonight was the night of the banquet, and I had a feeling it would be fun. The banquet was held in the grandest hall I'd ever seen. It had crystal chandeliers, long silk-covered tables with golden cutlery. There was soft music played by a live orchestra. Everywhere I looked were alphas and nobles dressed in luxury clothing and laughing over glasses of sparkling wine. It was overwhelming at first, but Derek stayed beside me the entire time, guiding me gently from one conversation to another. "Alpha Hawthorne, may I introduce my date, Kathy?" Derek said to a tall man in a navy blue suit. I bowed my head respectfully. "It's lovely to meet you, Alpha." "Ah, Kathy, the one who got Derek to start smiling again," the man chuckled. "He's been insufferable for years, always brooding. Now look at him." I laughed lightly, feeling heat rush to my cheeks. Derek just chuckled and squeezed my waist gently. "She's more than just a reason to smile," he said softly, glancing at me with eyes full of pride. "She's brilliant, too." And as the evening wore on, I did my best to live up to those words. I engaged in conversations with nobles and leaders about trade routes, pack alliances, even the latest in Lycan border regulations. I quoted a few political scholars I'd read and offered ideas that had more than one alpha pausing to consider. Derek watched me the whole time with a proud expression. "You never told me you were so well read," he whispered when we finally sat down with drinks in hand. "You never asked," I teased. He shook his head, smiling at me like I was made of starlight. "You're incredible, Kathy, truly." And for a moment I felt like I could pretend that he was the one my soul burned for, that his smile and his warmth were enough to make me forget Kane's name. But then, I felt it. That familiar ripple in the air, that unmistakable pull in my chest. My breath caught before I even turned. And when I did, I wished I hadn't, because there he was, Kane. He looked devastatingly good. He looked perfect, like he had just stepped out of a magazine. He was dressed in black. He had that same powerful presence that always made the room shift around him. His jaw was tense and suddenly his eyes locked in my direction. But it wasn't just him. He wasn't alone. Violet walked beside him, smiling up at him like she belonged at his side. Her hand was tucked into the crook of his arm, and she wore a silver dress that shimmered like starlight under the chandeliers. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat and turned my eyes away quickly. But it was too late. My wolf had already seen, had already felt. Jealousy spread in my chest like wildfire. My wolf snarled inside me, pacing restlessly, furious. She felt hurt and betrayed. He brought her. He knew I'd be here. He had to have known. And he still showed up with her on his arm, like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. I forced a smile onto my lips and sipped my wine, praying my hand wouldn't tremble. Derek didn't seem to notice at first. He was still watching me, proud of how well I was doing. I couldn't let that fall apart now. But the ache in my chest kept growing. Why did I still feel this way? But why couldn't I just let Kane go? Of course, he would always choose her. How stupid of me to think for just 1 second that Kane would ever let her go. Derek leaned close again. "You're doing great, Kathy. Everyone loves you." I nodded slowly. "Thank you, Derek. I'm glad I came with you." And I meant it. Even if my heart was breaking all over again just a few feet away, Kane's povee. I didn't want to take Violet. I had planned to show up alone, head held high, shoulders squared, confidence in every step. I was alpha, after all. I didn't need anyone dangling from my arm like a decoration. But of course, Mother had other ideas. It wouldn't look right. she said, standing in front of my mirror. Her arms were folded as she watched me adjust my cufflinks. You're an alpha, Kane. You need a Luna beside you, or at least someone who looks the part. I sighed. Violet is not my Luna, I said slowly, deliberately, like she hadn't heard it the last 20 times I'd said T. She doesn't have to be. Not yet. But you're expected to show up with someone. And everyone knows you and Violet are close, or at least they assume. I wanted to argue, to remind her that appearances were the very thing I hated about this world. But I knew she had a point. Every alpha and noble attending would be paired up, making connections, discussing alliances, trading power in polite smiles. Me walking in solo, it would make a statement I wasn't ready to make. So I called Violet. She said yes before I even finished the question. The moment we stepped into the banquet hall, I regretted it. Violet clung to my arm like a vine wrapping itself around a tree, smiling with all teeth and batting her lashes like she was auditioning for a role I never offered her. Kane, she whispered, squeezing my bicep. Do you see how they're all looking at us? We look so good together. I didn't respond. I just stared straight ahead, trying to focus on the nobles and alphas in the ballroom. Every time I tried to have a serious conversation, with Alpha Riss about border patrol coordination, or with Elder Verona about trade routes, Violet would interrupt with a high-pitched laugh or a ridiculous comment that made my skin crawl. Oh, Kane, remember when you tore that rogue apart with your bare hands? She giggled during one such moment. You were so primal. Riss blinked. Verona gave me a side glance. I wanted to disappear. Kathy would have known exactly what to say. She would have joined the conversation, added thoughtful points, charmed them without trying too hard. She was graceful, wise, strong. Not this. Violet leaned closer to me. Do you remember what we did last spring under the moonlight? She purred. You couldn't keep your hands off me. I stiffened. Don't, I said under my breath. Oh, come on, she whispered, pouting. You miss it. I know you do. You just don't want to admit it. I don't, I snapped. She blinked at me. Now, her eyes were wide and glossy like I'd just slapped her. Well, she huffed, stepping back slightly. That's not what your eyes said the last time we... Enough, Violet. My tone was low but deadly. Don't embarrass yourself. I was trying to breathe, trying to remind myself why I was here, and then I saw her. Kathy? She looked like a goddess in the dress she wore. Her hair fell to her back in waves. Her smile was radiant as she laughed at something Derek whispered to her. Their fingers were intertwined. He leaned down to say something in her ear, and she laughed again. The sound was so familiar that it pierced straight through me. It was like getting punched in the gut. I couldn't stop thinking at her, especially that night we got intimate. I wanted to see her again, yet here she was, with him. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to look away. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop looking. It should have been me. I left Violet muttering something behind me and walked straight toward Kathy, weaving through the crowd. My heart pounded faster with every step. She was alone now. Just for a moment, standing by the refreshments table. I approached her. Kathy, I said. She turned to look at me. The warmth in her face dimmed the moment she saw who it was. Kane. Can we talk? I asked. She looked around. About what? Just for a minute. I extended my hand. Dance with me. She didn't move. Her eyes searched mine like she was trying to find something familiar, something long gone. I don't think that's a good idea, she said quietly. My heart cracked. It's just one dance, I said. It's not. I'm with Derek, she cut in. Her voice wasn't cruel, but it was firm. And even if I wasn't, I'm not the same girl I was when you let me go. I looked down, swallowing the bitter taste in my mouth. I didn't let you go. You did, she said gently. Many times. I had no words. I couldn't even look her in the eye anymore. She turned to leave, and that's when I saw it, the bracelet on her wrist. That bracelet, it was a simple thing. A leather strap with 3 small stones knotted into the center. A charm I hadn't seen in years. A charm I had once given to a healer, a stranger. No, not a stranger. A girl who found me half dead and bleeding in the woods after an ambush. The one who patched me up, gave me shelter, and disappeared before I ever got her name. The same day the rogues attacked me. My breath hitched. The flashbacks came instantly. Blood, pain. Her voice soothing me. Her hands were soft on my body, and the bracelet I had pressed into her palm as she treated me, barely conscious, telling her, If I live, find me. It wasn't Violet who saved me. It was Kathy. Could it be? Could it have been Kathy all along? Kathy? She saved my life. And I never even knew. Kane's Povey. The moment I saw that bracelet on Kathy's wrist, the world around me shifted. Everything faded. The music, the clinking of glasses, the smell of expensive perfume, even the murmurs of nobles in the banquet hall. In my memory, I was bleeding. My vision was blurry. The pain in my chest was unbearable. I remembered collapsing against a tree, thinking that was the end, and then, soft hands. I heard a voice. A woman. She whispered to me to stay still, to breathe. Her touch was gentle, but her energy was strong. She stitched me up, bandaged my wounds, even held my hand through the fever. I never saw her face clearly, just her eyes, her voice, and that bracelet. That same bracelet. Now it was on Kathy's wrist. My heart slammed against my ribs as the realization hit me. She saved me. I needed answers. Now. I caught up to her just as she was stepping into the courtyard for air. Kathy, I called out. She turned slowly. Her eyes narrowed when she saw it was me again. Why are you following me, Kane? I pointed to her wrist. That bracelet. Where did you get it? She blinked. Why does it matter? It matters, I growled, stepping closer. Answer me. She looked down at the bracelet and then back up at me with a blank expression. It was a gift, years ago. From who? I demanded. Tell me. She hesitated. That hesitation confirmed it for me. My pulse quickened. It was you. I said, that night in the woods, when the rogues attacked. I was almost dead and someone saved me. It was you. I remember the bracelet. I remember your voice. Why didn't you tell me? She exhaled sharply, visibly annoyed. Because it wasn't me, Kane. I frowned. Don't lie to me. I'm not lying. Her tone was flat. I don't know what game you're playing, but I didn't save your life. Wasn't it Violet? Isn't she the one you claimed did all those things? I stared at her. I thought it was Violet. Until now. Well, you're wrong, she snapped. Her words were like slaps to the face. I stepped closer. Kathy, I know it was you. I felt it. You're the only one who ever looked at me like that. I felt the same calm that night. You saved me. I didn't save you, she cut in, louder this time. And I wouldn't save you now, not after everything you did. So stop coming to me with your regrets and flashbacks. You've made your choices, Kane. I'm not one of them. I stood there, stunned. Each word from her mouth sliced through me like cold blades. I watched her walk away without a second glance. My heart felt like it was being crushed in slow motion. No matter how much I tried to justify my past, to explain or fix things, it was never enough for her. She was gone, and she wanted to stay that way. But one thing still remained, the truth. If Kathy did save me, then Violet had been lying all along. My jaw clenched. I turned and walked back into the banquet hall. My eyes scanned through the crowd until they landed on her. Violet, laughing loudly in a circle of overdressed nobles, holding a glass of wine like she was born for court life. She saw me and her smile widened, but it quickly faltered when she saw the look on my face. Kane? She asked lightly as I approached. Is everything all right? Come with me, I said, grabbing her arm. Not hard, but firm enough that she had no choice but to follow. The nobles fell quiet, watching us as I pulled her out of the hall and into a side corridor, away from prying eyes. Kane, she said, breathless, what are you doing? I didn't answer at first. I turned to her once we were alone and crossed my arms, locking her with a glare. I want the truth, Violet. She tilted her head, blinking. About what? About the night I was attacked. About the person who saved me. She swallowed. I already told you. It was me, Kane. I took a slow step forward. Was it really? Why are you asking me this now? She asked, trying to sound offended. Is this because of her? Don't change the subject. I was calm, but cold. Tell me the truth. Right now. I need to hear it from your lips. Violet looked around like someone might come and rescue her from this conversation. I told you what happened. Why are you doubting me now? I stared at her without blinking. Why? Because I just saw the bracelet I gave the woman who saved me, and it's on Kathy's wrist. Her eyes widened for a split second, but then she quickly covered it with a scoff. You must be confused. Maybe Kathy found it. Maybe she's lying. Maybe you don't even remember what you're saying. I stepped forward again. Violet. She took a step back. You're scaring me. You should be scared, I said quietly, and then released just the smallest sliver of my alpha aura. She gasped and immediately bent her head, her shoulders trembling. Kane, I'm not playing games anymore, I said. Did you save me or not? I. She looked up at me, her lips trembling. I did save you. I stared at her, jaw tight. I didn't believe her, not for 1 second. Someone was lying, and it was most likely Violet. You lied to me, I said. That's not true. You used that lie to wedge yourself into my life, into my pack, into everything. I stepped back. And for what? To play Luna when you never earned the title? Tears shimmered in her eyes now. I love you, Kane. But I was done. I turned away from her and tapped into the mind link so I could speak with my beta. Dylan. His voice came in alpha. Come to the East Corridor. Take Violet home. What? She cried. Kane, no, you can't just throw me out. I can, and I am. Seconds later, Dylan arrived. Escort her out, I said. Now. Dylan gave a slight bow and turned to her. Miss Violet, this way, please. Violet looked at me like she was pleading for her life, but I had already turned away. Her cries and protests faded behind me as Dylan led her out. Kathy's povee. The moment I stepped out of the banquet hall, a thick lump sat in my throat like it was too heavy to swallow. I needed air. I needed space. The air inside felt too suffocating, too full of people pretending, too full of him. Kane. My heart ached at just the thought of him being with her. Violet. The name alone made my wolf stir with irritation. Just the thought of them together made me feel like something was clawing at my chest. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair that I still loved him this much, and he didn't seem to care anymore. It wasn't fair that my heart still raced at the sight of him, even after everything he had done to me. And that bracelet. Why did he still remember the bracelet? When he confronted me earlier and mentioned it, I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. How could he remember something so small, so intimate? The bracelet wasn't just a bracelet. It was a promise. A quiet one. One he made under the stars when he held my hand and said he'd never forget me, even if the world moved on. It was a simple braided piece of leather, and yet it carried a lot of memories. And now he looks at Violet like she's the only thing that matters. My wolf hates it. She paces in me, restless, possessive, jealous. She remembers everything too. The kisses, the scent, the way Kane used to call my name like it meant something. It still means something, I wanted to scream. But instead I stood there, biting my lip and gripping the edge of the stone wall by the corridor like it could hold me together. Hey. A calm voice pulled me from my thoughts. I turned quickly. My heart was still not ready to let go of the storm inside. It was Derek. He looked at me with those soft brown eyes, like he could see through me, see how broken I was inside. You okay? He asked. I lied without missing a beat. Yeah, I'm fine. He tilted his head slightly, not buying it, but he didn't push. You were amazing back there, you know? I blinked. What? At the banquet, he said, walking closer and leaning on the same wall. You spoke so confidently when you addressed the elders. All the alphas were talking about it. Oh, I gave a weak smile. I was just trying my best. No, he said firmly, you were doing more than that. You were commanding attention. You spoke like a Luna. I looked at him then, really looked at him. His compliment wasn't laced with flattery or expectation. It was genuine, sincere. His voice wasn't the one that haunted my dreams like Kane's, but it was soothing in its own way. Thanks, Derek, I murmured. That means a lot. He smiled. You don't give yourself enough credit. You've been through a lot, and yet here you are, strong. You're unshaken by anything. I chuckled bitterly. You think I'm unshaken? I think you're good at pretending you are. I stared ahead for a second, letting his words sink in. Sometimes I wish I could go back, I admitted quietly. Back before everything got messy. Before I lost everything. We talked for a little while longer, about nothing in particular. The weather, the food, the politics of the packs. It felt good to talk to someone who wasn't expecting me to be perfect, someone who didn't look at me like I was a mistake. But eventually, I excused myself. My heart was still too loud. My thoughts were still too chaotic. I just need some air, I said with a small smile. I'll see you inside. He nodded. Take your time. I wandered further outside. There was a quietness out here that the banquet lacked. No music, no chatter, just the night and the sound of distant crickets. The moon was high. That's when I saw the pool. It sparkled under the moonlight. It was empty and inviting. I walked closer, drawn by the stillness of it. Maybe if I just stared at the water long enough, my thoughts would quiet down too. I stood at the edge, my arms folded across my chest. My eyes were fixed on the gentle ripple of the pool's surface. Why does it still hurt so much? Why do I still care? Why does he still have so much power over me? And then it happened. I felt something. A sharp shove from behind. I gasped, but it was too late. My feet slipped. The edge of the pool vanished beneath me. The water consumed me. Before I knew what was happening, I was in the water. Someone pushed me. What the? I struggled as my head went under. The shock of it stole my breath. I didn't even get a look at who pushed me. My limbs scrambled for balance as panic took over. I kicked my legs, flailed my arms. My dress was heavy, clinging to my skin, weighing me down. Water rushed into my nose, burning. I tried to reach for the surface, my vision blurred. Who did this? Why? Please, please, not like this. My lungs screamed for air. I broke the surface for a second, gasping before slipping under again. The silence beneath the water was deafening. My mind screamed louder than my mouth ever could. Please let everything be okay. That was my last clear thought as my body fought to stay afloat. And then everything went still. Kathy's povee. Water. All I could feel was water, choking me, pulling me down. My limbs were heavy. My lungs burned, screaming for air, but all I inhaled was more water. I didn't even know who had pushed me. 1 minute, I was standing at the edge of the pool, lost in thought. The next, I was pushed inside the pool. I tried to scream, but the water rushed into my mouth. My arms flailed wildly, trying to find something, anything to grab onto. But there was nothing. The world above the surface felt so far away. My chest ached, my vision blurred, I was slipping. My wolf thrashed inside me, panicking just like I was. No, this can't be how it ends. Someone, please. And then, a splash. The water around me broke apart as a strong pair of arms wrapped around me, dragging me up. I coughed as we breached the surface. I gasped for air. The night sky seemed to be spinning above me. Whoever it was pulled me toward the edge and lifted me like I weighed nothing. I coughed again and again, trying to speak, to see, to breathe. Cold air hit my soaked body, but I was alive. That's all that mattered. Kathy, breathe. Look at me, the voice said. Kane. It was him. His voice grounded me. He laid me gently on the ground, leaning over me with a worried expression etched deep in his face. His hands were trembling. He tilted my head, pressing on my chest gently, trying to get the water out. I gasped as more liquid poured out of my throat. My body jolted, coughing violently. Easy. That's it. You're okay now. You're safe, he whispered, brushing wet strands of hair from my face. My chest heaved, my whole body shook, and even through the chaos, my heart recognized him. Kane. He saved me. You jumped in, I rasped out. Of course I did, he said, looking visibly shaken. You think I'd let anything happen to you? I couldn't speak again. I just stared up at him, at the water dripping from his soaked shirt. His eyes were full of concern, panic, and something else, something deeper. His hands were cradling my face like I was fragile glass, and for the first time in forever, I let myself lean into his warmth. Who did this? He asked in a low voice. Did you see who pushed you? I shook my head weakly. No, I was thinking, and then... Damn it, he muttered, jaw clenching. You could have drowned. But you saved me, I whispered. He looked into my eyes then, and something shifted. The tension between us wasn't just old memories anymore. It was raw, real. I never stopped caring, Kathy, he said softly. I bit my lip. I thought, you and Violet. Kane looked away for a moment, running a hand through his wet hair before looking back at me. Violet's been strange lately. Unstable, he admitted. That's why I brought her, to keep her close. She's tied to Alpha Dorian somehow. I don't trust her. There's nothing going on between us. I blinked. Wait, you're watching her? He nodded. Yeah, I never brought her because I wanted to. I just needed to keep her within reach. She's unpredictable. And just like that, the jealousy I had been drowning in earlier began to fade. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that, I said quietly. The words came out before I could even stop them. Kane's hand brushed against my cheek again. You don't have to be jealous of Violet. Not when I'm standing here worrying if I would have gotten to you in time. I tried to smile. Thanks? I never stopped loving you, he murmured. And those words, those 5 words, broke something open in me. I leaned closer to him. I never stopped either, I whispered. Violet's povee. From the shadows beyond the trees, I saw everything. I had followed Cain when I noticed him rush out. I thought maybe he was going to take a break from the noise, or maybe check on something. But what I saw instead nearly tore me in two. Cain holding Kathy, Cain whispering to her, Cain touching her like she mattered. I stood frozen, watching them, watching the way he looked at her like she was everything he had ever lost and just found again. And it made me sick. He's mine was the plan. That was always the plan. I clenched my fists so tightly, my nails dug into my palms. My wolf growled in the back of my mind, angry and possessive. How dare he? How dare she? He was supposed to be focused on me, but instead, he's here, kissing her with his eyes, holding her like she's his breath. I wanted to scream. She's in the way. She's the reason he's slipping away from me. I remembered Alpha Dorian's warning. If she becomes a problem, eliminate her. I breathed out slowly. I could feel the anger spreading through my skin as I turned away from the scene I could no longer bear to watch. Kathy won't be a problem for much longer. I'll just have to get rid of her. Kathy's POV. The door to the toilet slammed behind me. My hands trembled as I leaned against the sink, trying to steady my breath. My reflection stared back at me. I looked wet, wild-eyed and shaken. My dress was totally drenched. My hair was tousled from whatever mess had just happened. I didn't know who had pushed me into that water, but I knew I could have been seriously hurt if Cain hadn't found me when he did. He saved me. His arms were so steady as he drew me out urgently. His hands were trembling as he'd checked me for bruises. He told me he never stopped loving me. I felt the same way. Now, alone in the restroom, I wiped the corner of my mouth and tried to fix my face. I splashed cold water over my skin, taking deep breaths. My wolf was pacing restlessly inside me. I knew it was because of Cain. Luckily, Cain was able to tell a maid to bring me a hairdryer and some makeup things. She was kind enough to help me dry my clothes and my hair while I fixed my makeup. Once I managed to clean myself up, I stepped out and made my way back into the banquet hall. The music had shifted to something slower, and the scent of food filled the air. The guests were laughing and talking. I moved to stand next to Derek. He turned immediately. He looked at me and could immediately tell something was wrong. He had a concerned look on his face. "Kathy," he said quietly, "what happened to you? You look pale. Are you all right?" I gave a small, practiced smile and shook my head. "Not now. I'll explain later. Let's just focus on the banquet." His lips pressed into a firm line, but he nodded. "All right, but I'm not letting it go." I nodded, but my attention shifted involuntarily. Across the hall, I saw him. That's when it happened. Our eyes locked. Cain. He was standing on the other side of the room, and those intense blue eyes were fixed right on me. My breath caught. My wolf stirred violently in my chest, whimpering, howling in recognition. A shiver went up my spine. That familiar pull between us, the invisible cord, was alive and tugging again. Our mate bond was so strong. "Kathy?" Derek's voice pulled me back. I blinked and turned toward him, forcing a smile. "Yes?" "You looked like you'd seen a ghost," I chuckled softly, "just distracted." Very distracted. Before I could say more, the host of the evening stepped up onto the stage and clapped his hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called, "the auction is about to begin." People clapped politely. Glasses clinked. Staff moved through the crowd with paddles and auction booklets. I took a deep breath and tried to prepare myself for the next part of the evening. But I should have known better. From the moment the first item, a rare enchanted dagger, was presented, both Derek and Cain began bidding. Derek lifted his paddle. 10,000. Cain, without missing a beat, lifted his. 15. My eyes widened. 20, Derek countered. Cain smirked. 35. The crowd was murmuring now. Everyone knew this wasn't just about the items. This was alpha versus alpha. Power, pride, and something deeper, something personal. I looked from one to the other, tightening my jaw. I hoped this wouldn't escalate into an even bigger issue. I just wanted them to stop. Next came an ancient relic of moonstone, blessed by the elders. Cain lifted his paddle before the auctioneer even finished. 100,000. Derek laughed under his breath and raised his own. 200. They kept going, over a ceremonial cloak, a bottle of age-old sacred wine, even a necklace rumored to have healing properties from the moon goddess herself. Cain and Derek were like two bulls in the same ring. They both refused to back down. My wolf snarled inside me. I couldn't take it anymore. With clenched fists and a furious heart, I walked away from Derek's side and across the hall, past curious stares and whispering nobles. Oh, I grabbed Kane by the arm and dragged him down a side hallway. "Kathy?" he asked, startled. "What are you?" I spun around and shoved him against the wall. "Stop it!" He blinked. "Stop what?" "This," I snapped. "You're provoking him, Kane. You're bidding over every damn thing just to get under his skin." His jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it. "You're making a scene," I hissed. "People are watching, and more than that, you're acting like you still have something to prove." His voice dropped. "Maybe I do." I stared at him, heart racing. "Kane." He reached for me. "I couldn't help it. Seeing you with him, I broke up with him." His words died in his throat. "I ended it," I said again, quieter now. "Before the banquet." His eyes searched mine desperately. "You did?" I nodded, because I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I barely finished the sentence before Kane's hands cupped my face and his lips crashed into mine. My back hit the wall. The kiss was wild and hungry, full of longing and suppressed desire. I melted into him, my hands gripping his shirt, my lips parting under his. It felt like breathing again after being underwater. "Kane," I whispered against his lips. "I've missed you," he breathed. "I've been going insane without you. I never stopped thinking about you." Our foreheads pressed together as our breaths tangled. His hand slid down to my waist, holding me tight. "Tell me this isn't just a moment." "It's not," I whispered. "I want this. I want you." We held each other in the hallway, locked in something we both thought we'd lost forever. Our wolves connected inside us. I could feel it. It was more than just passion. It was the recognition of soulmates reunited. Unbeknownst to them, around the corner, hidden in the shadows, Violet stood, frozen. She had followed Kane earlier. She felt suspicious and wanted to see why Kathy dragged him out of the hall. She hadn't expected this, to hear Kathy's confession, to see them kiss. Her heart, once cracked, now shattered. Her fists clenched at her sides. She turned and walked away. Kathy's pov. I never thought I could feel this full again, so whole. When I finally gave Kane a chance, it felt like my heart began beat in a different rhythm. My life became filled with laughter, warmth, and love. I'd been scared. I'd been broken by Kane before. But Kane, he made it easy to believe in love again. He made it easier to trust him again this time. He didn't rush me. No, he was patient. We took things slow. Long walks under the moonlight, dinners at the little diner near the edge of the pack border, lazy afternoons in the gardens where he'd just watch me talk as if I was the most fascinating thing in the world. I remember the first night we went out after we made things official. He picked me up from the house wearing that sleek black button-up that made his shoulders look broader than they already were. His dark hair was slicked back, but a few strands rebelliously fell on his forehead. He gave me that crooked smirk the moment he saw me walk out in my green sparkly dress. "You're stunning," he whispered. His hand brushed my lower back as he guided me to the car. The restaurant was cozy and tucked away from the usual crowd. There were candles, soft music, and just us. Here, there were no alpha duties, no worries, just Kane and me, rediscovering each other. I laughed more than I had in years. His hand stayed over mine on the table, and his thumb lazily brushed over my skin. When the night ended, we stood by my door. Neither of us was ready to say goodbye. He leaned in slowly, brushing my hair away from my face. His voice was husky. "Can I kiss you?" I nodded, feeling my breath caught in my throat. The moment our lips touched, it was like the world faded out. The kiss was slow, soft, and deep. My wolf purred in satisfaction. She trusted him and felt safe in his presence. And that wasn't just one night, that was us now. Every evening he'd make time, despite the endless responsibilities of being an alpha. No matter how tired or late, Kane would show up at my door with takeout, gifts for the kids, a goofy smile, or just open arms. Then came the day he asked us to move in. "No pressure," he had said, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "But the kids deserve their full family, and so do you." I had said yes. Moving into the Alpha Palace again felt surreal. Everything felt kind of foreign, but the kids settled in like they had been here all their lives, which was weird because they didn't like going to new places. They were just happy to see their dad. Everything made the palace feel like home, the same palace that caused my pain. It was the warmth in Kane's smile when he'd walk through the door. It was Arya's giggles echoing down the halls. It was Noah trying to act like a big man while secretly loving being carried on Kane's shoulders. We became a family. Sunday mornings were for pancakes, burnt ones if Kane insisted on cooking. Afternoons were for playing in the garden. Arya loved flowers, and Kane would humor her by wearing them in his hair. "Daddy looks like a fairy prince," she'd giggle, and Kane would nod seriously. "Only the strongest fairy prince," he'd say, flexing his muscles, making us all laugh. My heart couldn't take it. I had never been happier. Some nights, after putting the kids to bed, we'd sneak into the kitchen for late-night snacks. I'd sit on the counter, his arms around my waist, and we'd talk about everything and nothing. "I want forever with you," he murmured one night, resting his forehead on mine. "And this time, I'm never letting go." My wolf howled in joy. Mine. He was mine. Third-person POV. But not everyone was happy. From the shadows of the palace hallways, Violet watched with narrowed eyes and clenched fists. Kane was hers once. She had poured years into trying to get his attention, and now that pathetic little Kathy had taken it all. His love. His time. Even his children. She had gotten rid of her once, and she could do it again. Violet masked her rage behind sweet smiles. She knew better than to strike too soon. When Kane was reassigned temporarily to a summit in another region by Alpha Dorian, Violet's lips curled into a satisfied smirk. Finally, a chance. It was a crack in the perfect little picture they had built. Kathy was alone, vulnerable. The night it happened, everything was too quiet. Kathy had tucked the children into bed, kissed their foreheads, and retreated into her room with a warm mug of tea. She was about to call Kane to say goodnight, but before her fingers could even unlock the phone, a sharp prick hit her neck. Her mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the ground. Her vision blurred. The world tilted. "Wah?" she whispered, stumbling toward the door. A figure appeared in the doorway with a wide grin on her face. "Poor little Kathy." "Wah?" Violet cooed. "Did you really think this story would end with a happily ever after?" Kathy collapsed, unconscious, as Violet stepped over the shards of porcelain and smiled coldly. "I warned you," she whispered. And then she was gone. She left the palace with Kathy in her arms, leaving behind only silence. And upstairs, Noah and Arya slept peacefully, unaware that their mother had just vanished. Kathy's POV. I opened my eyes slowly. My head pounded. Each throb matched the frantic beat of my heart. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. But then I opened my eyes, and the cold truth slammed into me. I was lying on a stone floor. Chains clinked as I moved. My wrists and ankles were bound. My skin was scraped, sore from the rough floor beneath me. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe, and moisture dripped from the ceiling. My dress was torn. My arms were covered in bruises. The room was dimly lit by a single torch on the wall. It smelled of blood, old blood. Panic set in. I blinked rapidly, trying to remember what happened. The last thing I remembered, I had tucked the kids into bed. I kissed their foreheads, whispered that I loved them. I remember walking into the living room, reaching for my phone to call Kane just to say goodnight. Then, pain. Something hit the back of my head hard, and nothing. Just blackness. I jerked at the chains around my wrists. "Hello?" I shouted hoarsely. "Is anyone there?" Silence. I yanked harder, feeling my wrists burning. "Please," my voice cracked. "Somebody." Then, footsteps. They echoed slowly down the hallway. I froze. My heart was beating so loudly I thought it might explode. I stared at the dark corridor beyond the bars, and then she stepped out, Violet. She wore a long, tight black coat. Her hair was twisted into a braid that hung over one shoulder. Her eyes glittered and her lips curled into a poisonous smile. She looked pleased. Well, she said softly, mockingly. "Sleeping Beauty finally wakes." My heart stuttered. "You?" "Oh, don't look so surprised," she purred, stepping closer. "You didn't think I'd let you keep everything, did you? Not Kane, not your perfect little family." I stared at her, stunned. You did this?" My voice was barely above a whisper. She tilted her head, mock pity in her eyes. "Of course I did. Who else has enough reason to hate you?" Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to cry. "Why?" I breathed. "Why would you do this?" "Because," she snapped, "you took what should have been mine. Kane, his love, his loyalty, his pack, he was meant to be mine." "I never took anything from you," I whispered. "He chose me." Her laugh echoed off the dungeon walls. "He chose wrong, and now he's going to lose you." I began to shake. My thoughts raced. My babies, Kane. Oh God, did they even know I was gone? I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. They'll find me. Kane will come for me. If he finds you in time, Violet said, walking closer. She knelt, crouching before me. That's if he finds you before Alphadorian finishes with you. That name made my blood run cold. Where am I? Violet smiled slowly. Alphadorian's territory, deep underground. No one gets in or out. My stomach dropped. I'd heard of him, Alphadorian. I knew him when I was Luna. He was ruthless and cold. There were also rumors about his obsession with blood experiments, of werewolves disappearing into his territory and never coming back. Why here? I choked out. Why bring me to him? Violet stood and stepped back into the shadows. Because, my dear, your blood is special. I blinked. What do you mean? She smirked. You'll see. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then, more footsteps. These were heavier, slower, measured in a way that made the air grow tense. The iron door at the far end opened, and in walked a tall man dressed in a dark gray coat. His face was calm and unreadable, but in a way that chilled you to the bone. I could feel the aura of power rolling off him. Alphadorian, I knew it instantly. Every nerve in my body screamed in warning. I fell to my knees, trembling. Please, I croaked. Let me go. I have children, I have a mate. He'll come, please. Dorian stopped a few feet away, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked down at me with the disinterest of someone inspecting a product. You should be honored, he said finally. Few are chosen for such a purpose. My mouth dried. What purpose? He didn't answer. I turned to Violet, who now stood behind me, silent. Her face was cold again, detached. Don't do this, I said to her. Violet didn't blink. Violet, she pulled a dagger from her coat, then took a step forward. No, I whispered. The blade was inches from my throat. I squeezed my eyes shut. Then, stop, Dorian said. Everything stilled. Violet froze, dagger midair, her face twisted in frustration. Why? We don't need her alive. Dorian took a step closer, his voice calm but edged with authority. We do now. He turned his gaze on me again. Your blood, it seems, holds rare regenerative properties. It can strengthen the body, prolong the lifespan of a werewolf. My researchers confirmed it. He smiled. You, Kathy, are valuable. My stomach twisted. You want to keep me for testing? Extraction, observation, he replied plainly. You will not die, not yet. Violet growled. So she lives? For now, he said. The two of them exchanged a look. Then, without another word, they turned and walked out. The door slammed behind them. I stayed frozen for a long while. And then, I broke. The sobs tore from my chest before I could stop them. My body shook as I cried. I curled into myself as far as the chains would allow. Kane, I whispered. Noah, Arya. I whispered their names again and again, like a prayer, like a shield. I hurt. My body, my heart, my soul. I hoped my kids would be okay. But beneath all of that, I felt hopeful. He'll come. Kane will come for me. I just have to hold on, I murmured. No matter what they do to me, I just have to hold on. Kane's Povee. The sun was just beginning to set when I returned home. I was exhausted, worn from the patrol and trying to stay ahead of the threats clawing at our borders, but I had been counting the hours until I could walk through that door and hold her again. Home, Kathy, the kids, they were all I could think about. Despite how tired I was, there was a huge grin on my face. I had bought flowers for my Kathy and some toys for the kids. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The air was heavy, not with tension but with grief. Daddy, a voice echoed. Tiny feet slammed against the hardwood floors, and in the next second, Noah and Arya were in my arms. Their small hands clung to me like they never wanted to let go, and I immediately crouched down to their level. Hey, my babies, I whispered, holding them both tight. I missed you so much. We missed you more, Daddy, Arya sniffled. I noticed tears streaming down her cheeks. Mommy's gone, Noah whimpered, burying his face into my chest. What? I stiffened. What do you mean gone? She tucked us in one night. Arya's voice trembled, and when we woke up, she was gone. I stood slowly, the children still in my arms. My pulse started to spike up. I looked at them in confusion, not believing what I was hearing. Was this a joke? What was going on? I looked up, finally noticing the rest of the room. James sat on the couch, his elbows on his knees and his hands tangled in his hair. His eyes were bloodshot, and his jaw clenched so tight I thought he'd break his teeth. Beside him, Gina was sobbing into a handkerchief, her entire body shaking. "James," I barked. "What the hell happened?" James looked up. His face was pale. He had bags under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "We don't know, Kane," he rasped. "I stayed the night to help her sort out some things. We talked. She went to bed early, tucked the kids in like usual, and by morning—" He rubbed a hand over his face. Her bed hadn't been slept in. I blinked, trying to breathe through the rising storm inside me. "Are you telling me no one saw her leave?" Gina let out a soft cry behind me. "She wouldn't just walk away," James said hoarsely. "You know that. She'd never leave the kids. Never." "She didn't leave," I growled. "She was taken." I carefully placed the twins down. "Go to your room, okay? Daddy will be right there." "No," Arya cried, holding onto my hand. "Please don't go again," Noah whispered. I knelt and pulled them into a tight embrace, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I'm not going anywhere, but I have to find Mommy, okay? I promise you I'll bring her back." "Swear?" Noah asked, his little voice breaking. "I swear." When they finally let me go and headed upstairs, I turned to James. Right now, my fury was barely contained. My wolf urged me to let him take over so he could rip apart whoever was responsible for this. "I'm going to find her," I said. He nodded. "I figured you'd say that. What do you need from me?" "Nothing. Just take care of the kids. I don't want them to feel that fear again. Not if I can help it." Gina clutched her chest, stepping forward. "Please, Alpha Kane, bring my daughter back. She's everything to us. I will." I looked her square in the eyes. "I'll burn down the world if I have to." I stormed out of the house and climbed into my car. My thoughts were a blur. I could feel my rage boiling under my skin. There was only one person twisted enough to do this. Violet. I pulled my phone out and stared at it, reluctant to make the call, but knowing I had no choice. Derek. He was the only other one who loved her enough to want her safe. The irony of needing help from my rival, the man who shared my heart's obsession, wasn't lost on me. But this wasn't about pride. I hit call. He answered on the second ring. "Kane, she's gone." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "What?" "Kathy. She's missing. I believe she was taken." Silence. "I'll be there within the hour," Derek said tightly. "Don't do anything until I arrive." Derek arrived just as the moon rose. He was wearing black. His hair was slicked back, and his eyes burned with the same anger I felt inside. "What the fuck happened?" he asked. "Who took her?" "I have no idea, but I suspect Violet. I need your skills, your connections. I'll give you my trackers. You do what you do best. Hack." We sat in my office. Both of us were tense. We were both worried about Kathy. I wondered where she was. Was she being abused? Was she being tortured? "When I find out who did this." "Last known activity?" Derek asked, pulling out a laptop and connecting to his network. "Nothing. The guards say there was no signs of struggle. No sense beyond the usual until the back door. There's something faint there, like a wolf, not from this territory." Derek typed rapidly. "I'll check traffic cams, satellite feeds. Anything suspicious between few nights ago and this morning." I turned to one of my men standing guard. "Bring in the trackers. I want every border combed. No rest until we get something." 2 hours passed. The room was filled with tense silence, occasional muttered curses, and the low beeping of Derek's programs scanning security feeds. Then suddenly, "Got something." I leaned over his shoulder. On the screen was a grainy image of a van driving through the East Road around 3 a.m. The headlights were off, but the plates were visible. "That road leads to the mountains," I said. "That's neutral territory. But if you keep going—" "It curves into Night Fang territory," Derek finished coldly. My heart dropped. Night Fang. The one pack reckless and brutal enough to do this. "She's there," I said. "I know it." "You realize what this means," Derek muttered. "Yeah," I said, locking eyes with him. "We go together." We didn't speak much after that. There was no need. The rivalry between us faded into the background. She was worth more than pride. We were two alphas bonded by one thing, her. And now we were about to start a war. Together, Kane's POV. The night was cold. Our footsteps crunched on the gravel ground as we moved quietly through the thick trees. We were on a rescue mission. I was going to get Kathy back or die trying. Derek was just ahead of me, crouched low. His ears perked as he picked up a sound in the distance. Behind us, our men were silent and ready. We were able to find out that Dorian was the one keeping Kathy captive. That fucking bastard. Dorian's hideout wasn't far. It was between the eastern ridge and the river. "We're close," Derek said, looking back at me. I nodded. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with fury. Kathy was here. I could feel it. I'd kill Dorian and Violet on sight. They dared to kidnap my mate. They would pay for this. I'd make sure of that, but what was more important to me now was getting Kathy safe. And I would burn this whole place down if that's what it took to bring her home. We moved swiftly, dispatching the first 2 sentries before they even knew we were there. My claws were slick with blood. Every time I blinked, I saw Kathy's face, the way she used to smile when she baked, the sound of her laugh, the softness in her eyes when she looked at me like I was home. And then I'd see her missing, captured, taken by Dorian. It made something inside me snap. By the time we reached the gate of the hideout, alarms were ringing. Dorian's men poured out like cockroaches, but we didn't back down. Derek was already fighting, moving with fluid violence. I didn't hesitate. I jumped into the fight. In fact, I let it. I was moved by my anger. I fought with my fangs bared and my claws out. Every blow I landed was fueled by the agony of missing her. One man rushed at me with a blade. I grabbed his wrist, snapped it backward, and plunged the blade into his own gut. Another lunged, and I headbutted him hard, hearing the crunch of his nose. I turned swiftly, ducking beneath a club and driving my fist into another guard's throat. There were too many to count, but I didn't care. I let my alpha wolf rise within me. I unleashed my aura, letting it flood the battlefield. My growl shook the earth. The weaker guards stumbled, paralyzed with fear before I even touched them. "You should have never taken her," I roared as I threw 2 men into the stone wall like rag dolls. Another came at me with a baton. I blocked the hit, twisted his arm, and slammed my elbow into his face. Blood poured on my shirt, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. My claws tore through armor. My legs moved with so much speed. I was no longer fighting like a man. I was fighting like a beast. Derek joined me, back to back. "Damn, Kane," he muttered between blows. "Remind me never to piss you off." I didn't answer. My eyes had locked on the entrance to the underground chamber. I grabbed a guard trying to run. I took him by the neck and slammed him into the wall. "Where is she?" I growled. "Where is Kathy?" I don't know," he stammered, trembling. I pressed my claws against his neck. "Try again," he gulped. "Down the north corridor. Iron gate. The sea cellar." I dropped him. We ran. We moved down the dark passageway, past torches that flickered wildly from the pressure of our movements. My chest tightened with every step. If she was hurt, if she was broken in any way, I didn't want to think about it. I reached the gate, then broke the lock clean off and slammed the door open. And then I saw her, Kathy. She was curled up in the corner of a cold stone dungeon. Her arms were wrapped around herself. Her hair was matted and her dress was torn. Her body was trembling. When she raised her head up, her eyes were dull, but when she saw me, her lips parted. Her eyes became filled with tears and hope. "Kane," her voice cracked. It was hoarse, like she hadn't taken water in years. I ran to her and dropped to my knees. Kathy, I'm here." She stared at me for a second, like she didn't believe it. Then she burst into tears and threw herself into my arms. I held her tightly, burying my face in her hair. She sobbed against my chest, clinging to me like she thought I'd vanish. "I thought you weren't coming," she cried. I thought you gave up." "Never," I said hoarsely. "I will never give up on you." My arms wrapped around her, lifting her as gently as I could. Her body was so light, too thin, but she was alive. She was safe, and she was mine. "I've got you now," I whispered. "I've got you, baby. You're safe." Third person POV. Violet watched from a distance. Her face was pale and blank as she listened to the news through her spy's panicked report. "They got her out," the man stammered. "Kane, Derek, they brought men. They fought through everyone. Alpha Dorian's stronghold, it's in ruins. Kathy is with them now. She's safe." "No," Violet said. It took every self-restraint in her not to punch the wall. She screamed loudly in frustration. "No, no, no, no." She turned, pacing rapidly. Her mind was racing. Everything had been perfect, her plan, her setup. Kane was supposed to move on, to forget Kathy. He was supposed to come back to her. She and Dorian were already planning to kill Kathy so she could be eliminated for good. But now it was ruined. "I should have killed her immediately," she muttered. She didn't see Dorian enter the room until he slammed the door shut. "Your plan," he growled, "just cost me half my men." Violet straightened. You said you could handle it. I gave you what you wanted. You were the one who said we shouldn't kill her yet. I needed her for an experiment. You said you could contain Cain and make him forget her, but you didn't. What I got was chaos." Dorian's voice echoed through the chamber. "You said Cain wouldn't find her," she snapped. You said you would make sure Cain was done with her," he roared, stepping closer. "That you could control him. That he loved you." Violet's confidence began to fracture. He was supposed to. Dorian grabbed her by the throat, shoving her back against the wall. "You failed. You dragged me into your pathetic obsession, and now I'm paying the price." Her eyes widened, her fingers clawing at his hand. "Wait, please." But Dorian didn't wait. He snarled, fangs bared, and with one quick, brutal move, snapped her neck. Her body dropped to the floor, lifeless. Dorian stood over her, breathing hard. "Stupid girl," he muttered. "Love makes fools of us all." Third person's POV. The moon hung high and full above the trees. The scent of blood, sweat, and scorched dirt filled the air as Cain and his men prepared to leave with Kathy. The battle against Dorian's guards had been hard-fought but victorious. Kathy was by Cain's side. She was bruised and exhausted, but safe. She kept stealing glances at him as if to make sure he was real, that this was real, and Cain never let her go for more than a heartbeat. They had no idea what was coming. Just as they neared the forest's edge, the ground trembled. A low, inhuman growl rolled through the silence. Cain turned, wondering what the hell that was. His instincts screamed. Something was wrong. Then, he appeared. Alpha Dorian, but not the same man they had faced before. His muscles were bulged unnaturally. There were thick veins underneath his skin. His eyes glowed in green color, and his body radiated raw power. His breathing was ragged, feral. There was foam at the corners of his mouth. Dorian had used a serum to enhance his powers. He wasn't going to let Kathy go that easily. Cain's eyes narrowed at the sight of him. He used the serum. Cain knew about it. There were always rumors that Dorian was running experiments and making research on how to enhance powers. Cain knew Dorian had a power-boosting serum. Before anyone could react, Dorian let out a roar and lunged forward. His men came out from the woods alongside him. The ambush had begun. There was a full-on war. Cain pushed Kathy behind him. "Get her out of here," he barked at Derek, who had just turned back toward them. Derek barely had time to nod before the enemies crashed into them. The men fought violently against each other. The forest turned into total chaos. Cain fought like a demon unleashed. His fury was relentless. He slammed one wolf into a tree with such force that the bark peeled. He brought another man to the ground with his claws. Some men tried shooting, but Cain dodged all the bullets. But no matter how many he took down, more came, and then he heard her scream. He turned just in time to see Dorian break through the line of defense and grab Kathy by the hair, dragging her backward. "Kathy!" Cain roared, but 4 more attackers came at him. They slashed their claws at him, keeping him pinned. He fought like hell to break through, but the seconds stretched into agony. Meanwhile, Dorian tossed Kathy like a rag doll against the floor. She let out a cry of pain as her shoulder slammed hard into a rock. Dorian walked towards her. His lips were curled in a cruel smile. "Poor, pathetic girl," he sneered. "Still hiding behind your alpha lover, you're weak." Kathy tried to crawl away. She could feel the blood trickling down her temple. Dorian struck her again. He kicked her in the stomach, making her wince in pain. She held her stomach as the pain spread throughout her body. "You're nothing," he spat. "Weak, powerless, just another broken little plaything." Cain was losing his mind, fighting tooth and claw to reach her. "Kathy, hold on," he screamed. But Dorian wasn't done. He raised his clawed hand high above her chest, ready to end it. "You should have stayed in that cell," he said. "I'm going to use your blood to make myself powerful." Just as the blow began to fall, Kathy's body suddenly flared with blinding golden light. Dorian froze, shielding his eyes. "What the?" he muttered. A symbol burned to life across Kathy's back, the phoenix mark. It glowed beneath the torn fabric of her dress. The mark burned like fire, and it filled her whole body with so much power that she didn't feel weak anymore. Her wounds began to close rapidly. Her bruises faded quickly. She slowly stood with an unreadable expression, golden light reflected in her eyes. The phoenix mark had awakened. Dorian stepped back. "No, that's not possible." Kathy didn't speak. Her body moved on instinct. and her hand snapped out with surprising speed, grabbing Dorian by the throat. He tried to swipe at her, but she dodged with ease. Her palm slammed into his chest with so much force, sending him flying backward into a tree. The tree cracked under the impact. Kane finally cut through the remaining fighters and saw her. He saw Kathy, standing tall, glowing like the dawn. His breath caught. Dorian tried to lunge again, but Kathy met him midair, twisting and slamming him into the ground with a loud crash. The earth scorched beneath her feet. Flames spread around her hands. The flames weren't wild, but controlled, like she was born with it. "You don't get to win," she said. Her voice echoed round the place. Not anymore. Their final battle was brutal. Dorian was stronger than before, but Kathy was quicker, fueled by her power. Every blow she landed burned him. Every kick threw him off balance. He growled and raged, but he was no match for the phoenix rising before him. Finally, with one last roar, Kathy spun midair and drove her fist into Dorian's chest, sending a blast of heat and force through him. He collapsed, groaning in agony, unable to move. The light dimmed around her, but her strength did not fade. Guards from the tribunal arrived shortly after, alerted by the battle. Dorian, beaten and broken, was cuffed in silver and dragged away. "You'll pay for this," he screamed. Kathy glared at him. "I already did. Now it's your turn." Kane stepped forward, bloodied and bruised, and pulled her into his arms. "You," he whispered against her hair, stunned. "You have powers." She nodded into his chest. "I didn't know, until now. It's the mark." "I've never been more proud of you," he murmured. He cupped her face, gazing into her eyes like she was the most extraordinary thing he'd ever seen. And to him she was, the woman who had survived so much and risen from the ashes like a true phoenix. Their lips met in a slow, passionate kiss. Around them, the fire died down. The forest became silent again. Days later, Dorian was executed by the ruling tribunal for crimes against werewolves, including treason, kidnapping, and attempted murder. The news of his death moved through the packs, but it was Kathy everyone talked about, the true bearer of the Phoenix Mark. Her name spread like wildfire through the territories. There were stories of her bravery. People spoke about her strength and her victory. The girl they'd once called weak had become a symbol of hope. And Kane, he stood by her through it all. He was so proud of her. Wherever she went, he was there, her protector, her mate, her equal. And Kathy? She was no longer in anyone's shadow. She was fire, Kathy's Pove. The first light of dawn came in through the curtains. For a moment I just breathed, deep, full breaths. The world was still. The birds outside had only just begun to sing, and Kane lay beside me. His arm was wrapped around my waist. His chest rose and fell in that slow rhythm I knew by heart. I turned on my side to look at him. He looked so handsome. He looked so relaxed in sleep, lips parted slightly. This man, this stubborn, guarded, maddening, beautiful man. I remembered the days I looked at him and saw a stranger I didn't trust. Now I couldn't imagine a life without him. My fingers grazed over the lines of his hand, tracing the scar near his thumb, the one he got trying to fix our back door because he insisted he didn't need help. I smiled. And then, "Mommy!" The door flew open like a mini hurricane. "Noah took my crown," Arya shrieked. Her curls bounced as she stormed toward the bed in her bunny pajamas. "I didn't." Noah cried, right behind her, holding something pink and glittery in one hand and his stuffed wolf in the other. "I was just looking at it." Kane groaned into the pillow. "Tell the forest princess and the wolf tamer to give me 5 more minutes." "Nope." Arya jumped straight onto the bed, her small fists on her hips. "You're getting married today, remember?" Noah climbed up after her, grinning. "And I need help with my tie." I blinked, sitting up with a rush of nerves. "Oh, goddess, we're actually doing this." Kane opened one eye. "You're not backing out on me now, are you?" I smacked his arm. "You wish." The morning turned into a blur of sweet chaos. I helped Arya pick between 5 dresses, each pinker and fluffier than the last, while Kane sat on the floor with Noah, awkwardly fumbling with a child-sized bow tie. "Bunny ears, then over and under," he muttered. "That's shoes, Daddy," Noah giggled. I was trying to pin a flower crown on Arya when she suddenly hugged me tightly. "You look like a fairy today." I looked at my daughter, her wild curls, the freckles on her nose, the spark in her eyes that looked so much like mine and Kane's. "Thank you, baby," I whispered. "So do you." By mid-morning, the maids arrived with trunks of accessories and energy enough for 10 women. They whisked me away into the dressing room, laying out my gown, shoes, perfume, and makeup. One of them, Liana, was placing small crystal beads into my hair. "The alpha going to faint when he sees you," she grinned. "I kind of hope he does," I joked, trying to ignore the butterflies turning cartwheels in my stomach. Another maid, Miri, gently dusted highlighter over my collarbone. "You've got the whole glow from within thing going on. That's real love." We all laughed together, and for a moment, it felt like I was back to being a girl playing dress-up. Except this time, it was real. Just as I stepped into my dress, a soft knock came. "It's James," he called. He stepped in, adjusting the lapels of his deep navy suit. When he looked up and saw me, he stopped in his tracks. "Wow," he said quietly. "You look beautiful." I felt tears spring to my eyes. He walked up and held out a small velvet box. "I found this while packing up Dad's things," he said. "It's his locket. Thought you'd want it." Inside was a silver locket, engraved with our family crest. I clutched it against my chest. "Thank you," I whispered. "You've always been there. You earned this, Kath. Every bit of it." He smiled. "You finally got your happy ending." Just then, Mom entered the room. One look at me and she burst into tears. "Oh, my baby," she cried, coming closer to pin a silver brooch onto my gown. "I always knew you'd fight for love." "I had to," I whispered. "It was worth everything." Then came the moment I never expected. Kane's mother walked in. Everything went still. She was composed as ever. Her silver hair fell to her hair in perfect waves. Her dress was regal as usual. There was a time she refused to even look at me. But today she approached and extended her hand. "I was wrong about you," she said softly. "You gave my son peace. You gave him a family, and I was too proud to see that." I swallowed. This was a new beginning, so I had forgiven her for everything she did to me. "Thank you. That means everything." As she nodded, my wolf stirred in quiet joy. I took a breath and let myself remember Violet's lies, the betrayal, the distance, the pain, but also the fight, the healing, the forgiveness, the rediscovery of a love that could have broken but didn't. Now here we were. James offered his arm. "You ready to walk?" "I'm ready." The garden had been transformed. Lanterns and fairy lights hung from tree branches, flickering like stars. Moonflowers and lavender were arched over the altar. The grass was soft beneath my heels. Arya and Noah marched ahead, holding a glittery sign. "Here comes love again." Arya tossed petals too early and yelled, "I'm queen of the forest," before nearly tripping on her dress. Noah dropped the ring box. A squirrel darted from the bushes and tried to make off with it. James shouted, "Hey!" and took off after it, dodging guests, while everyone laughed. Gina and Kane's mother shared a look and began calming the children together. I almost couldn't believe it. Then I looked ahead and saw Kane. He was standing beneath the moonflower arch. He looked absolutely stunning. His suit was perfectly tailored, his eyes locked onto mine like nothing else in the world existed. "You look unreal," he breathed as I reached him. "So do you," I whispered back. We turned to face each other. My vow came first. "I've loved you through storm and silence. I've loved you through fear and fire, and I'll keep loving you through every sunrise, every scar, and every joy we've yet to find," I said. Kane took my hands. "You brought me back from the edge," he said. "When I didn't know who I was, you reminded me. When I wanted to give up, you stayed. I chose you then. I choose you now, and I will choose you every day after this one." The twins stepped forward with rune-engraved bracelets, one symbolizing love, the other strength. We fastened them onto each other's wrists. The guests cheered. The reception was magic. Laughter filled the air. The food was amazing. The drinks flowed and music filled the garden. I danced with Noah, feeling his little feet on mine. Arya spun in Kane's arms, shrieking with laughter. At one point, I looked across the garden and saw Gina and Kane's mother sitting together, sipping wine, actually talking, smiling even. I nudged James. "Are you seeing this?" "Hell has officially frozen over," he said, raising his glass. Fireflies rose in the air. Then fireworks lit the sky, dazzling above the lake. I leaned into Kane, arms around his waist as we watched with the twins tucked between us. Later, when the noise faded and guests mingled by the dessert table, Kane took my hand. "Come with me," he said. We walked down to the edge of the lake, where the stars reflected in the water. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. I was scared, he murmured, that I'd never get this again. You were never alone, I whispered. He kissed my temple, then slowly placed his hand on my stomach. Maybe we're not done building our forever yet. My breath caught. I turned to face him. You're serious? He smiled, completely. I touched his cheek. Then maybe. Neither am I. He kissed me again, soft and deep, beneath the stars. And for the first time in forever, everything felt exactly right.